This is Atomic Shinobi and today I'm going to narrate second and final part of What If Naruto Saved Yugito from Immortal Duo. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe to this channel. Now wasting no time, let's start the story.
When Naruto completed Jiraiya's casket, it was getting dark. When he was done, he placed his sensei in the coffin. He told Sakura, Sasuke, and Yugito that he would complete the casket on his own, despite their desire to assist him. They allowed him to complete it on his own since they knew they wouldn't argue with him this time. Naruto was reflecting on his memories of Jiraiya as it grew late. Jiraiya came up with his first move, the summoning technique, while he was out for a walk. There was a sound behind him as he sat by the river. Naruto turned around and swiftly pulled out his kunai. Tsunade, Naruto, help me, collapsed. Naruto thought to himself, no, this cannot be happening. He made 2 cage bunshin in a flash. You, he said, gesturing to a bunshin. Go inform Shizune. You, help me take Chan to the hospital and hurry. He felt his heart racing. No, Chan, not you too, please not you too. Naruto hurried over to Tsunade and placed one of her arms beneath his neck, while the other clone did the same to her other arm. Tsunade was covered in cuts. She had a deep cut on her left thigh and a deep gash across her chest. One could see the bone if they looked at it. It was 2 inches deep. Smaller cuts were also visible on her stomach, legs, and both arms. There was no doubt that her right forearm was broken. It was hanging at an odd angle. What prevented you from healing yourself? Naruto reflected, you're the world's greatest medic shinobi. When he arrived at the hospital, he was surprised to see Yugito there along with Shizune and Sakura. Naruto reasoned that perhaps Yugito was just starting to leave when she received the news. Shizune said to him, set her on the bed, Naruto, hurry up. They walked Tsunade into the emergency room after he hastily placed her on the bed. Yugito and Naruto waited outside. When Tsunade and Sakura entered the emergency room, Sakura was at her right side. While other medical nins treated the large wounds, she concentrated her chakra to remove the poison. For now, they left the little ones alone. Shizune was absorbed in studying the medical texts. Shizune said to one of the medic nins, all right, give me some tomashiraso and some deer antlers. He headed out right away to get the supplies. Naruto waited in the waiting area for 4 hours. There was absolutely no communication between him and Yugito. Yugito didn't want to bother Naruto because he was certain that he had a lot on his mind. At that moment, Shizune emerged and dabbed at her forehead. Naruto asked, how is she? With a, she's okay Naruto, Shizune replied. Naruto asked Shizune, can I go and see her? If it was a different person I would say, no, but I know you wouldn't listen anyways, so go ahead. She's down the hall and to the right. Just go all the way to the end, she stated to Naruto. Yugito and Naruto visited the emergency department. While Yugito was waiting by the door, Naruto hastily pulled up a seat and took a seat next to Tsunade's bed. Tsunade didn't appear well. Around her entire body, she was covered with bandages. She was using an oxygen mask to breathe. Naruto cupped Tsunade's left hand between his 2 outstretched hands. Naruto's voice was angry as he asked, why Chan? Why do you go and do a stupid thing like this? It was surprising, Yugito thought. I can't take much more of this, Naruto said in a dejected tone to the unconscious Tsunade. First, it was Sensei, now it's you. Tears began to fall from his eyes and he began to cry. He used the backs of his hands to wipe them away. Naruto told Tsunade, you're always protecting me, but you don't even protect yourself when it comes to you. I should go. Yugito thought to herself, Naruto needs time alone. Silently, she opened the door and walked out. All night long, Naruto remained by Tsunade's bedside, holding her hand. The following day, Shizune visited Tsunade's room and was shocked to find Naruto still awake at her bedside in the late afternoon. Shizune assured Naruto that she would be fine in 3 days and advised her to get some rest. Shizune returned to the Tower of Hokage. Although he didn't want to go, he knew that Tsunade needed to be checked by the medical nins. Yugito wasn't home when Naruto arrived, so he simply fell asleep. He had been up all night and was exhausted. Sakura caught Yugito's attention as she was strolling down the street. Sakura said, hey Yugito, to her. Hi Sakura, replied Yugito. Sakura questioned her, what are you doing right now? Yugito replied, nothing much, just walking around the town. Sakura said to her, what do you think we go meet up with the group then? In response, Yugito said, sure, why not? Sakura asked, where's Naruto? Yugito said, I don't know, with a shoulder shrug. Are you sure it's okay? I mean Tsunade. Sama is injured right now. You're a medical nin, right? Shouldn't you be checking up on her? Yugito questioned Sakura. The life-threatening part already passed. It's just up to her body to recover now. I can't do anything much right now. They're just doing check-ups now and anyone can do that. Besides, Shizune is personally checking up on her and she's better than me in medical treatment, Yugito was told by Sakura. Yugito asked her, okay, then where's everybody at? They're at the barbecue restaurant like always. It's dinner time, let's go meet them, she replied to Sakura. When they arrived at the restaurant, Yugito sat down next to Lee. To allow everyone to sit together, they connected the 3 tables. Except for Naruto and Sasuke, everyone was present. With a slightly disagreeable tone, Kiba asked Sakura, how was your mission? I saw Sasuke a few times and the council seemed pretty happy that he was back, so I guess it was a success. Yugito took note of this. Sakura told him, yes, it was. You sound like you didn't want him to come back, Kiba. Why should I want him back? I'm assuming that Naruto beat Sasuke's ass for him to be back. To tell you the truth, I would have killed him instead, Kiba said modestly to her. The voice was grave. Sakura, unsure of whether he meant it or not, asked him, you don't mean that, do you, Kiba? Kiba laughed. Think what you want of him, Sakura. I have no reason to like him like you and Naruto do. Sakura asked Kiba, but why? Kiba looked at her with a serious face. Look, Sasuke went to Orochimaru for power. Do you even remember who Orochimaru was? Have you forgotten what he did? Let me refresh your memory just in case you forgot. He attacked our village. If he wasn't stopped by the 3rd, we would all be dead, Sakura. Also, it wasn't only the 3rd that died, we lost many of our shinobis that day. You should remember that and keep it in your head, Sakura. But it wasn't Sasuke, Ino said, cutting through. Ino was staring at Kiba. Don't matter. He went to Orochimaru knowing this information also. He basically said to all of us, I don't care what Orochimaru has done to Konoha, I will go to him for power. That's something that I can't forgive him for, Ino. Basically that's traitorous of him and selfish. You and Sakura might see him as a friend and all that, but all I see is a traitor who was welcomed back by the council because he has a blood limit. Let's say it was a regular shinobi who went with Orochimaru instead of the last Sharingan user in Konoha. What do you think the council would have done? Kiba said as he looked at Ino and Sakura knowing what to do. Sakura and Ino were both aware of the solution. Any ninja would have been instructed by the council to immediately kill that individual and Orochimaru. Sakura chimed in, you don't know what happened to him. I know about his past, Sakura. I know he had a hard childhood, but there are people who had worse things that happened to them and still wouldn't have done what he did, she replied. Kiba's right, Shikamaru thought. Take a look at Naruto. Unlike Sasuke, he did not betray the village despite having a worse past. Then why did you go on the first mission to rescue him if you hated him so much? Kiba replied to Sakura. Who said I wanted to rescue him? Naruto asked me to help and that's what I did. Don't mistake my actions of helping Naruto as wanting to rescue Sasuke, Kiba told her. Sakura wanted to be certain. So if Naruto didn't ask, you wouldn't have gone? No, that's not correct. If none of you asked to help get him back, then I wouldn't have tried rescuing him or want to rescue him. But if any of you asked, I would have done it, Kiba replied to her. Look, don't get the impression that I hate him because me, Neji, Choji, Lee, Shikamaru, and Naruto were injured during the mission. I don't really care about that because it's expect for people get injured during missions. I don't like him because he's a traitor, plain and simple, Kiba told Sakura. There's one more reason why I don't like him. He tried to kill Naruto, she replied to Kiba. Except for Yugito, everyone there was aware of Sasuke's Chidori battle and Naruto's Rasengan. You remember when Naruto came back, right? His shirt and jacket had a large hole about the size of a fist near his heart. There was a huge hole behind him, with the exact position and size when you fold the jacket. That's something you don't do to a friend, Kiba said to her. Yes, we know about how Sasuke almost killed Naruto with the Chidori, but you forgot to mention Naruto also said that he used the Rasengan on Sasuke, Kiba heard Sakura say. Yay, Naruto used the Rasengan, but he probably used it in self-defense trying to block another Chidori attack from Sasuke. If the move actually did connect, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now, said Kiba. And how would you know that, Kiba? Naruto told us that he was aiming to kill, Sakura said to him. Of course Naruto would say something like that. He's protecting Sasuke's image. You want to know how I know that Naruto used it in self-defense? Well, for one, the mission was to rescue Sasuke, not kill him. 2. I read up about his Rasengan after Naruto left and it's a very powerful jutsu. Do you know the only other people that could use the jutsu? Jiraiya and the 4th. Even though the only people who could use the Chidori is Sasuke and Kakashi. "Sensei, the fourth's technique is a lot more damaging," she was told. Sakura recalls this moment when Naruto and Sasuke were flung into the water container, where Sasuke's Chidori left a smaller hole and Naruto's Rasengan left a larger one. When Kiba talked about Sasuke in this way, she felt hot. She believed that everyone would accept and forgive Sasuke upon his return, not because she was angry. Seeking to find out, Sakura asked the group, "Is this everyone's opinion of Sasuke?" "No, only mine, but let's see what else everyone thinks, shall we?" Kiba replied. Kiba asked him, "So Neji, what do you think of Sasuke?" In a normal voice, Neji stated, "I don't feel like getting into your little discussion about Sasuke." Kiba grinned at Neji and said, "Haha, nice one, but I know you agree with me Neji and you only went because Naruto asked you to." Kiba said, "What about you, Lee?" Lee responded to the question by saying, "Even though he is a traitor, it is not my nature to hate a person. I neither detest him nor like him." With sunglasses on, Kiba asked, "Fair enough, you Shino?" Shino stated in an emotionless tone, "I don't really care, but having the Sharingan in Konoha is beneficial for Konoha." "Yay, but you would agree with me if he didn't have the Sharingan," Kiba laughed. "What about you Shikamaru?" When Shikamaru said, "It's too troublesome to answer your question Kiba," he sounded slack. "Too troublesome? Then why did you even answer? Could have just used the same amount of words you dummy. I know you probably feel the same way I do and just don't want Sakura or Ino to bother you after this. What about you Choji?" Kiba questioned Choji. "I'm glad that he didn't die, but he did betray the village," said Choji. "So you're in between then. Sakura, we already know your stance on this. What about you Ino? After hearing what I've said maybe you changed your decision or maybe not," Kiba responded. Ino remarked, "Well, I'm glad he's back." Kiba emphasized the word, fan club. When he said, "Typically, the only people so far that are glad he's back are the people who were in his fan club." "That's not true Kiba," Ino said, raising her voice above normal. "Fine then, let's continue and ask the other girls what they think who weren't in his fan club," Kiba replied to her. Kiba asked, "Alright Hinata, what do you think?" Hinata was afraid to respond. Since Kiba began asking people what they thought of Sasuke, she had been afraid. While he was significant to Naruto, he also betrayed the village. With two index fingers together, she uttered the words, "I don't know Kiba.kun." Kiba simply shook his head and said, "I shouldn't even have asked you Hinata, what about you Tenten?" "I wouldn't want someone that did what he did on my team," Tenten stated. "Finally, someone gave me a straight answer for once. Thanks Tenten. And what about you Yugito?" asked Kiba. What was expected of her? Yugito believed that she was unaware of this Sasuke. "Sorry, but I don't know him and it doesn't affect me," Yugito replied. "Yes, that's true, but you did help Naruto in saving him. You were a major factor in his retrieval and I can't leave you out. Plus I want to know what a person that doesn't know him thinks," Kiba replied with a grin. Yugito paused for a moment. "I really don't know, but since he is the only one with a specific blood line, I can see why the village wants him to be rescued. Even though he betrayed the village, he must have some good traits in him for Naruto to try and rescue him." "Yay, that's what I want to know also. I want to know his good traits because from what I've seen there isn't any." "You can tell me after you ask Naruto alright," Kiba replied to her. The group began conversing with one another instead of discussing Sasuke. Sakura was perplexed. The majority of them didn't give a damn whether Sasuke returned or not. Following their meal, Yugito and Sakura strolled down the street together after leaving the restaurant. "They don't know him much," Sakura informed her. After a moment of wondering what she was talking about, Yugito recalled the group's discussion in the restaurant. "You mean Sasuke?" she asked. "Yes, at first I thought they would be happy that he returned, but I was wrong. It does make sense though when I think it through. Even though most of them tried to become friends with Sasuke when they were younger, Sasuke just ignored them. During his childhood, Sasuke would keep to himself and didn't care much about them or try to become friends with them. Neji barely even met him before Sasuke left. The group barely even knew him and vice versa. Why should they care for him? He didn't care for them also when he left," Sakura replied. Yugito simply listened to her since she was at a loss for words. What should she have said? She was also unfamiliar with Sasuke. Knowing that Sakura only needed someone to talk to, she simply listened. Sakura thanked Yugito for listening to her when they came to a fork in the road. To get to Naruto's house, Yugito turned right and Sakura turned left. When she arrived at Naruto's house, it was quite late. Naruto was already asleep in his sleeping bag, as she could see. Silently, she went to his room and fell asleep as well. When Naruto visited Tsunade the following day, she was awake. She insisted that he wait until she was up in her office before delivering his report, even though he had a lot of questions and things to share with her. Naruto wouldn't have listened to Tsunade if she weren't so bedridden, but at the moment, he didn't discuss his mission because he just wanted to make her feel as comfortable as possible. Naruto, take out Yugito or spend some time with her. I bet she's bored right now. She your guest and all you're doing here is watching me. I'll be alright, Tsunade stated to him. Naruto simply returned home. He had little desire to do anything. He was still thinking about Jiraiya. Yugito was also not in the mood to do much. When they went out together, she occasionally felt the villagers staring at her. She didn't like the looks she was getting, even though she was fairly sure that nobody in the hidden village of Leaf knew she had the Nibi in her. At times, she thought she was back in the hidden village of Cloud, with the exception that fewer people were staring at her. After 2 days, Kakashi approached Naruto's window. Now, Naruto, Kakashi said, Tsunade. Sama wants to hear your mission statement. Oh Kakashi. Sensei, you haven't met Yugito yet have you? This is my friend from the hidden village of Cloud, he said to Kakashi. Although he pretended not to know her, Kakashi actually knew who she was from Jiraiya. Hello, my name is Kakashi, and I used to be Naruto's sensei, he said, extending his hand for her to shake. Unsure of what to say, Yugito shook his hand and said, Hello, I'm Yugito. Naruto's teammate. Kakashi simply grinned and walked away. He said, Shall we go? To Yugito. Sakura was waiting for them when they arrived at the Hokage Tower. She welcomed Yugito and Naruto. Tsunade leaned one hand on her desk and asked him, So Naruto, what's your story? She still had some bandages on her leg and chest, and her right arm was in a sling, but she now looked better. Sakura could sense that Naruto was uneasy in her and Yugito's presence. She then turned to face Yugito. After Yugito understood the hint, they both departed the room. Nay. Chan, sensei is dead, Naruto said as they exited the room, and tears began to well up. She stepped forward a few paces and embraced him, allowing him to rest on her chest. She held him and let him cry for a few minutes. After gathering his thoughts, he let go of Tsunade. She didn't appear surprised by the news, which surprised him. His question was, Wait, did you know already? Who told you, Sakura? Yes, I knew already Naruto and it wasn't Sakura that told me. I'll explain it, she replied. Rewind. Tsunade's door was knocked on. She commanded, Come in. Hello Tsunade. Jiraiya opened her mouth. So it's finally time. You're going to settle this dispute with our old friend for the last time? Tsunade responded. Yes, replied Jiraiya. I think this is the last time I'll see you also Tsunade. What do you mean? Are you saying you're going to lose already? Tsunade asked, looking surprised. No, that's not what I'm saying. It doesn't matter if we succeed or if we don't. Either way, this will be the last time I get to see you. I've been doing some research on Orochimaru's immortality jutsu and how it works. Basically, even Orochimaru was killed, he would not die. Only his host's soul dies, while Orochimaru's soul would wander around until it finds another host. Which means that the only way he can truly be killed is, Tsunade interrupted Jiraiya. Shikafuji. Jiraiya informed her, yes, exactly. So either way he kills me or I kill him and me. Tsunade pleaded, is there no other way? With her voice. Jiraiya assured her, believe me, I wouldn't employ this method if there was. Tsunade's eyes were filled with water, but it remained in place. She simply dabbed at her eyes. Jiraiya tried to cheer her up by saying, please don't cry now, Tsunade. It's not like you, in a cheerful tone. Orochimaru, I will never forgive you, Tsunade said softly. Why? Why did Team 13 have to end up like this? He drew her into his arms and drew her closer. When I go, I don't want a huge funeral, alright. I just want my close friends like you, Shizune, Kakashi, Naruto and his gang, and also Yugito. I don't think you've met her, but I know Kato would appreciate it if she came to my funeral. I already told Kakashi this information and asked him to follow Akatsuki after I'm gone. Alright, she replied. Anyways, let's get the mission started then. I'll tell Shizune to get Naruto and his partner. Final flashback, her eyes were red when we were given the mission because of this. It had nothing to do with sake. Naruto reasoned that it was because she already knew. Tsunade informed him, go on with your report. We'll be having his funeral tomorrow. Well, we killed Snake Man in glasses. We got Sasuke back as you probably already know, Naruto replied. Despite the success of the mission, Naruto felt empty. Since seeing Sasuke in the hospital, Naruto has not spoken to him. He had no immediate desire to talk to Sasuke. I've got a couple of questions for you, Chan, Naruto replied. Tsunade was growing accustomed to Naruto referring to her as Chan. Compared to what he used to call her, it was a significant improvement. She said, "Yes, what is it, Naruto? Why didn't you heal yourself when you were injured? You're the best medical nin that I know," she replied to Naruto. "Well, that's easy, Naruto. I didn't heal myself because I was poisoned. When a person gets poisoned, it is harder to extract the poison when the wound is healed. I needed to get the poison out first before I could heal myself. Another reason is that you shouldn't always use healing jutsus when you're injured. The fast healing can shorten your life span," Tsunade replied. Then he said to her, "Okay, my next question is, where did you go? As I told you, Kakashi is keeping track of Akatsuki now. He mentioned that there were 2 members that were going after Gaara and he informed me. I had to go and stop them," Tsunade informed him. In concern for his friend, he inquired, "They went after Gaara?" "Yes, unfortunately they got him. I couldn't stop them from getting him. I was fighting one while the other one left. While I did defeated one of them, I couldn't retrieve Gaara because I received too much injury during that fight," she informed him. Naruto reflected that there were now only 2 remaining. Why didn't you bring someone strong with you like Kakashi? Sensei or Guy? Sensei. Why are you always protecting me, but when it comes to you, you don't even protect yourself? Replied Naruto. When he asked this question, Tsunade could feel the rage in his voice. I can't, Naruto. I'm the Hokage, and when I'm gone the hidden village of Leaf Defense drops tremendously. I can't be thinking of my protection when the village is in danger. The village needs all the strong shinobis that we have when I'm gone, she said to him. Now Naruto was furious. Then why do you have Anbu watching me so closely? You think I can't sense them watching me? I sense their presence every time I go somewhere, and I could easily shake them loose if I wanted. Why are you wasting shinobis on me then? I can take care of myself. You're different, Naruto. You know that Akatsuki is after you, and if they ever get their hands on you, not only the hidden village of Leaf is doomed, but the whole world, Tsunade said in an attempt to calm him down. Naruto expressed his disapproval of her logic by crossing his arms, but he knew in his heart that she was correct. That didn't mean he had to like it, though. Naruto asked, shifting the topic, which Akatsuki did you kill then? To which Tsunade replied, I killed Sasori. Jiraiya had informed Naruto about Sasori, causing him to gasp. Sasori was one of the stronger Akatsuki members, despite the fact that all of them were powerful. It makes sense why Tsunade sustained so many wounds. Well, I think that's it. I'll tell Sakura and your friend Yugito about Jiraiya's funeral, Tsunade stated to Naruto. The funeral for Jiraiya was held the following day. Tsunade, Shizune, Kakashi, the Rookie 9, Team Guy, and Yugito were the only people present at the funeral. Each of them laid a flower on Jiraiya's coffin. Naruto remained tearless. There was no more to shed, he had already shed enough. Everyone except Yugito and Team 7 left after the funeral. Sasuke approached Yugito, Sakura, and Naruto. The funeral went on until 5:30. I'm sorry, claimed Sasuke. Naruto believed that Sasuke was partially to blame for Jiraiya's death, which is one of the reasons he avoided talking to him. He was still unable to forgive Sasuke for traveling to Orochimaru in search of power, even after learning that Jiraiya had always intended to seal the city. He was aware that it was immature, but he had to assign blame, and Sasuke was the one. Additionally, Naruto blamed himself because he believed that Jiraiya might not have had to die if he had been stronger. He felt this way even though he knew it was also childish. Naruto responded, it wasn't your fault, Sasuke, so it's okay. Naruto felt that he could begin to forgive Sasuke now that he had formally apologized. No, if I didn't go to Orochimaru, none of this would have happened, replied Sasuke. No, Jiraiya would have done it sooner or later, I know it, Naruto stated in response. Said Sasuke, I also wanted to say thank all of you for saving my life, to the attendees. You're welcome, I don't know you, but I was just here because my teammate asked me, Yugito replied. Sakura and Naruto simply gave Sasuke nods. They then started to walk to their own home. Like I used to, Naruto, I will make an effort to keep those I care about safe. That's a commitment, and I sincerely apologize. Thank you, Yugito. Even though I don't know you. Without you, things might have turned out quite differently. I owe you money. As he headed out toward the Uchiha compounds, Sasuke thought to himself, Sakura, you probably have all these mixed feelings right now, but it's okay. I will make it up to you. Yugito and Naruto walked for 30 minutes to get to Naruto's house. Naruto was preparing food for both himself and Yugito. Jiraiya's final words, live life with no regrets, were all he could think about. While he was cooking, Naruto's thoughts kept returning to these words. After putting down her plate, Naruto took a seat across from her. Looking at Yugito, Naruto pondered her thoughts. She didn't even cry or shed a tear during this entire period. She was a real ninja, Naruto believed. He went on missions with her all the time, not just this one time. When things went wrong, Kato displayed emotion. In contrast to Yugito, who hardly showed anything, Kato also displayed his joy. Although Naruto detests admitting it, there were moments when he felt less than her, not in terms of abilities, but rather in terms of what a true shinobi ought to be. She seemed to him the ideal illustration. Emotionless, highly effective, and someone who completes tasks. In contrast to Sasuke, despite possessing all of these qualities, she never once disparaged Naruto. Naruto was happy about this, but to be honest, he was also angry. It demonstrated to him her superiority over all of that. Naruto occasionally wished he were more like her. Yugito wanted to know Naruto's thoughts. Naruto was on her mind. Once more, he did it. Every time it seemed like there was no hope left, he somehow made it through. He saved his friend's life in addition to saving her from a Sennin. She always thought Naruto was superior to her on missions, despite the fact that they were fairly equal in training and sparring. As a leader, he had the ability to uplift the group's spirits through his words. Naruto's words had the power to transform people, something she believed she would never be able to do. She wished she could do that too, sometimes. Yugito occasionally wished she were more like him. Since Naruto needed to know her opinion of him, he interrupted her by saying, "Hey Yugito, you probably think I'm pretty weak, huh?" Yugito responded, "What do you mean? You saved your friends and my lives, Naruto." Naruto thought, there she goes again, not putting down a person. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about my mental weakness, how I showed so much emotion when Sensei was killed. How I showed so much emotion when Chan was injured. Yugito said, "No, I don't think that," as soon as he was done. Naruto searched her eyes for any indication of dishonesty. He was surprised to find none. That was her true belief. "I think it's good that you have people you care for, Naruto. Even though I didn't show that much emotion, it was because I did not know them as well as you did, Naruto. You're not weak, Naruto. You saved a friend from a Sennin. You saved my life," Yugito reminded him once more. "Yugito," said Naruto. "Yes," she said. Naruto said, "Thank you," to her. They keep eating, each lost in their own thoughts. Jiraiya's final words, "Live life with no regrets," came back to Naruto. Did Jiraiya say what Naruto believed him to say? After their meal, Yugito persuaded Naruto to let her wash the dishes. They had nothing to do, and it was growing late. After that, Yugito went to Naruto's room. She heard Naruto's voice 3 feet away from the bedroom. He remained seated on the kitchen chair. Naruto said to her, "Hey Yugito, you're going to the day after tomorrow, right?" Her question to him was, "Yes, I got to get back to my village." "Why? What is it?" "I guess I won't be seeing you for a long time after this then," Naruto said, more to himself than to her. "Nothing, just wondering when you were going back." "I guess not," she said in a low voice, more to herself than to him. He questioned whether she could hear Naruto's heart pounding so loudly. "Naruto, it's now or never. Have no regrets in life. If you don't do this right away, you'll regret it." "Yugito, can you come here for a second?" he said, rising from his chair. Yugito thought the request was strange, but she approached and stood a few feet away from him, saying, "Yeah, what is it, Naruto?" Naruto was certain that she could now hear his heartbeat and that she was likely feeling it as well. "Have no regrets in life," he said. "I just wanted to say that while staring directly into her eyes." She said, "You what, Naruto?" "Well, I just wanted to say that I really like you." "There, I said it," she replied to Naruto. When he finished speaking, he noticed that her expression changed from one of emotionlessness to one of sadness. Naruto instantly felt bad about telling her since he had now caused her to be unhappy. "I'm so sorry. I know that you and Kato are, together, but I couldn't let you leave without telling you," Naruto said to her. "Kato is my brother," she said to him. "What do you mean, Naruto?" Naruto took the news like a ton of bricks. Naruto believed that this was the way shinobis behaved in a relationship, despite the fact that they never displayed any indications of being together. He reflected on the occasions when he came to the conclusion that they were not brothers and sisters but rather in a relationship. "What? I always thought that he and you were together. Then why do you always call him sensei and never brother? Why do you guys sleep in the same room? I don't have a family, but if there was an extra room I thought that you would be sleeping in there if you guys were brother and sister." He recalled his other rationale. Why didn't he give you a blood transfusion when you were almost dead? To answer your first question, the reason I always called him sensei instead of brother was because that's how I was raised and it's a habit. It's a habit for him, calling me Yugito also. He also asks me the same question all the time, but I really don't know why," Yugito replied. Yugito said, "The truth is Naruto, I really like you too," her eyes watering. Was I listening to her correctly? Hearing this made Naruto happy, but he quickly realized that Yugito was still bothered by something when he turned to face her. Then what's the problem? She was unable to look Naruto in the eyes, so she was focusing on the ground. "You might not like me after you find out what I really am. I don't think I can handle that kind of rejection after I've known you for so long. That's why I never came out and told you. I figure it was better to have you as a friend than not having you at all. But, if we were to get together then you would have to know what I am." Her reasoning was not clear to Naruto, who said, "You're Yugito, you're my teammate. I would never reject a person like that. So what's the problem? You should know me by now." Yugito said, "I have a demon in me," in a voice so low Naruto couldn't hear it. Naruto apologized, saying, "Your voice was too low, Yugito, and I didn't get you." She raised her head and met his eyes directly. "I have a demon in me, Naruto," she said, a little louder so Naruto could hear, her eyes now filled with tears. When she used the word demon, her pupils briefly changed from normal to slit. She then put her hands over her eyes and started crying. Naruto was even more shocked by this news than by the last one. He stood there for a few seconds, stunned. He was at a loss for words. He moved forward to take her hands off her face. He then used his forefinger to lift her face by her chin, causing her to look into his eyes once more. She continued to cry. Naruto thought to himself that such lovely eyes should never be wet. He pressed his lips to hers and closed his eyes. She pressed her lips to his while closing her eyes. For 5 seconds, their lips met and they shared a kiss, but it seemed like forever to them. Yugito said to him, "No, I'm sorry Naruto, I can't do this," and then she took her lips off his. She dashed into the room of Naruto. She threw herself on Naruto's bed, stomach first, after changing into her pajamas. Yugito was holding the pillow close to her face with her arms beneath it. She was reflecting on what had just transpired. She was a Jinchuruki, which Naruto had just discovered. When he learned, he didn't even appear frightened or scared of her. He gave her a kiss instead. Although she was relieved that he still tolerated her discovering that she was in possession of a Biju, she was now concerned for him. Yugito considered Akatsuki. Knowing Naruto, she was aware that he would now put his life in danger to save hers, especially after learning that she also liked him. She wished she could have done something different. When Akatsuki eventually came for her, she reasoned that perhaps if she simply acted as though she didn't like him, he wouldn't put his life in danger. But then she gave it some more thought. Even if he knew she didn't like him, he would most likely act in the same way. Perhaps Naruto would have continued to assist her when she was captured because he was always there for his friends. It might not have been that bad. She tried to make herself go to sleep as she lay on the bed. Naruto continued to stand in the kitchen, reflecting on his recent discovery. He neglected to inform her that he was a Jinchuruki himself because he was so shocked to learn that she was his partner. "I'll let her know tomorrow, foolish Naruto, so she won't feel so isolated." He decided it was time to go to bed because it was already late. After putting on his pajamas, he entered his sleeping bag. He started to consider his options. They were therefore sisters and brothers. She has yet to respond to my other 2 inquiries. I want to know, but I'm fairly certain they have to do with the Biju in her. What is the answer to the second question? The third one is most likely due to the fact that normal blood and demon blood cannot mix. An hour or so had passed, and Naruto was still awake. After learning about the other Jinchuruki, he was unable to fall asleep. He wanted to ask her a lot of questions right now. At that moment, he heard his room's door open. He could see lights in his bedroom. Yugito emerged from his bedroom carrying a blanket and a pillow. Not wanting to wake him if he was asleep, she said softly, "Naruto, are you awake?" He replied, "Yes, I'm awake Yugito." "What is it?" at a normal volume to show that she hadn't woken him up. Naruto saw the most exquisite thing he had ever seen in his life when she emerged from the doorway. She had on a red, transparent lingerie robe that buttoned up close to her chest. It was buttoned so that her stomach was visible. Her underwear wasn't see-through and was slightly darker. Her posture gave Naruto the impression that she was somewhat embarrassed, but he made no comment. Yugito asked him, "Is it okay if I sleep with you tonight?" Sure, Yugito, he replied, unsure of how to respond. The sleeping bag could accommodate 2 people after Naruto unzipped it. "I have nothing to cover my body with right now." She moved stealthily to where he was lying, placed her pillow beside his, and covered herself with her blanket. Now Naruto lay on his back. The wall was to his right, and she was to his left. Yugito's face was turned away from his as she slept on her left side. Naruto was pondering. What should I do since ninja classes don't cover these kinds of topics? These are things that they ought to teach. At that moment, Yugito's right hand touched him and seized his right wrist. He allowed her to use her arm to guide his. With her right hand, she drew his arms closer to her body, causing them to gently encircle her stomach. Yugito places her right arm over his upper right arm. Then she used her left hand and his right to interlock their fingers. Naruto was now also a little off to the left. In order to look at the back of her head, he shifted his position. She tossed the blanket back, enclosing them both. Naruto was told by Yugito, "I never told you why I slept in the same room as my brother." He simply allowed her to go on. "It's so that he can wake me up. If I manage to finish any of my nightmares, Nibi, my demon, eats a little bit of my memory away. Kato is there to wake me up so that I won't lose my memory," she stated to Naruto. She knew the answer when she asked, "Can you wake me up if you see me struggling in my sleep, Naruto?" As Naruto told her, "Yes, of course, I promise that I'll wake you up whenever I can." Yugito went on to say, "As for your other question, I always thought that it was Kato or the hospital's supplies who donated the blood. I guess I'll never whose blood they used then. I know who it was. It was me," Naruto informed her. Yugito questioned Naruto, "You? Why didn't you ever tell me then?" "Because I also have a demon in me. I thought that if you found out you would freak out because you were given demon blood. I'm sorry I didn't mention that earlier, but I was just so shocked that you also had a biju inside of you and didn't get the chance to tell you," he said to her. When she heard what Naruto had just said, she instantly turned around and met his eyes. She checked to see if he was telling the truth by looking into his eyes. Although it was dark, it wasn't entirely black, and because of her problem, she was able to see well in the dark. She didn't notice anything that would indicate he was lying. Naruto went on, "I don't want you to feel alone anymore, Yugito. I also don't want to be alone anymore. Even though I have a few friends, most of them don't know I have a demon in me. You're the first person that I told. Only Shikamaru and Sakura knows about my problem. They found out on their own. Sasuke might have found out from Snake Man, but other than that the people in my generation don't know yet." She asked him, "Which one do you hold, Naruto?" "The Kyuubi," answered Naruto. Now intrigued, she inquired, "How come you've never used him before?" "Same reason why you haven't. I don't want to be advertising my pal here. Also, I promised myself that I would use it only in under one condition," she replied to Naruto. "Well, you almost died during our fight with Orochimaru. Why not then?" Yugito responded. She read about the Kyuubi and knew it had healing qualities, but she also understood why she didn't use her biju. "You're assuming that I'll use it to save my life when that's not true. The promise is something that's worth more than my life. Also, we weren't completely losing," she replied to Naruto. She reflected that there was something more significant than his life. Jiraiya was out, Sakura was out, I was out, and you couldn't move. How worse can it get, Naruto? She asked, putting that thought out of her head. Naruto uttered the single word, Sasuke. Sasuke? At the time, he was on the opposing team. She responded by saying, "You don't mean what I think you do. You're telling me that you had faith that Sasuke would break Orochimaru's curse seal and switch sides while we were almost killed?" "Yes," he replied to her right away. Unbelievable, she thought. It was his belief that his friend could escape the curse that made him risk his life. She also found that aspect of Naruto appealing. When it came to it, he trusted his friends so much. It wasn't only that, Yugito. I saw it in his eyes. He was fighting it, and when he saw me protect you, I think that broke the seal, she heard Naruto say. She also recalled the moment when Naruto uttered the words, "I never want to see an important friend die in front of me," and Sasuke twitched. Don't get me wrong, Yugito, if I didn't see it in his eyes I wouldn't have hesitated to use Kyuubi at that time. Another reason for not using it after Sasuke was fighting with Orochimaru was because I saw Sakura healing Sensei, Naruto stated to her. I would only use Kyuubi for last resort. The main reason is because I can't control the Kyuubi very well when I use it. Sensei was training me on using the tails and I can only control up to 7 tails. Even though I can usually control 7 tails, sometimes I even lose control if I let one tail out. This usually only happens if I'm at my limit. It's pretty rare for me to lose control with one tail, but it does happen. At the 8th tail it's usually Kyuubi doing the thinking. I might even be a danger to the important people that I'm trying to protect. I've never released all the 9 tails before, so I don't know how that's like. That's why I would only use it as last resort, he said. I didn't train with Kyuubi during my stay with you guys because, like I said, I didn't want to advertise him. I rarely do it when I'm here in Konoha because the people here remember his chakra too well. I don't think they like sensing his chakra flowing around, Naruto stated to her. Naruto did not receive any special training, in contrast to her. Yugito recalled a conversation she had with Sakura in which she claimed that Naruto had learned nothing prior to attending the academy. He probably found it difficult to control the Biju. Furthermore, the Kyuubi was more powerful than her Biju. She had read about that. Naruto questioned her, "So the first time that I've met you, it was Akatsuki, was it not?" "Yes, it was," she finally said after a few seconds of silence. "I wished I would have told you earlier about my feelings. Now there are only me and you left," she replied to Naruto. Yugito said to him, "I thought there was another person?" Every time Kato learned something new about Jinchurikis, he kept her informed. He always told her how many were left, but he never gave her their names. She always assumed the information was accurate, but she never knew where it came from. "Not anymore, that's where Chan went. She tried to save Gaara, but failed. They got him while we were rescuing Sasuke," she heard him say. As Naruto put it, "Like I said, if only I would have told you earlier, then maybe we would have more time to spend together," he said. "Don't talk like that, Naruto, it's not suiting you. You talk like we're going to die," Yugito told him. She reasoned that Naruto's discussion of his death wasn't typical. Naruto was aware that they had little chance of surviving. He sincerely hoped that if he had told her sooner, they might have had an additional year or two before Akatsuki arrived. The past was the past, and it doesn't matter now. At least he knew that she loved him in the end. They gave each other intense eye contact. They were able to determine whether they still wanted to pursue their relationship now that everything was public knowledge. They drew nearer to one another while still maintaining eye contact. Breaking the silence, Yugito said, "I'm glad I'm not alone, Naruto." He said, "Me too, Yugito," in response. Yugito tried to lighten the mood by saying, "I guess you got to see what I bought." Naruto responded to her, "So that's what you bought? No wonder why you didn't want me to see it." Her head was close to his chest as he drew her in close. She gently put her arms around Naruto's neck, and he gently put his arms around her stomach once more. This is how love feels, then. As they dozed off, they both remarked to themselves, "What a wonderful feeling." All night long, they kept each other in that position. That night, they both made a silent promise to themselves. They promised that no matter what, they would do everything in their power to assist the other person. The following morning, Yugito and Naruto woke up early and dressed. They wanted to check if any of their friends were at the restaurant instead of cooking. As they made their way to the restaurant hand in hand, Yugito said, "You know, you haven't told me a lot about your friend Sasuke. I heard some interesting things about him from some of your friends." Naruto raised one eyebrow at her and asked, "Interesting?" According to her, "Well, let's just say he wasn't what I expected." Chuckling, "It was probably Kiba who said all these bad things about Sasuke, am I right?" "Yes, it was mostly Kiba, but I could sense that most of the group didn't really care for him," Yugito replied. Then she shared what she had discovered with him. "Kiba sees things in black and white. He doesn't any gray at all. While the things he says were true, Sasuke does have some good qualities in him, although he doesn't like to show it much," Naruto responded. Yugito said, "I would like to know, to him." Naruto said to her, "I suppose I'll begin with his past. Did they tell you about his past?" "No," Yugito remarked, "but they did mention it. I shouldn't be telling you because it's not my place, but it does kind of involve you, so I guess I can tell," she was told by Naruto. How is she connected to Sasuke's past? She pondered. Sasuke's whole clan was killed by his brother while he was a little boy. His mother and father were killed right in front of his eyes by his brother, Naruto told her. She let out a gasp. This was terrible, but she had a rough past, too. She recalled Sakura's statement that Naruto was raised without a family, even though she acknowledged that hers wasn't as horrible as Sasuke's. Naruto most likely had the worst past due to a demon that was imprisoned inside of him. "But I'm sure you had a difficult past because of your problem." "I know I did when I was younger," Yugito continued. "It's a little bit different. I was hated by almost everyone in the village. I did hate the villagers, but there wasn't a specific person to hate. I hated everyone. Sasuke has only one person that he hated, so he left to get power so that he could one day kill his brother. I didn't have a target like him," said Naruto. "The reason I said it was tied to you because his brother is Itachi," she was told by Naruto. When she heard this, her eyes opened. Her brother had already told her about Itachi. Although he didn't say much to her, Kato claimed that Itachi was an extremely powerful shinobi. However, Yugito was unsure of the strength. "I heard that he was a very strong shinobi. I mean, of course he's strong because he's in Akatsuki, but just how strong is he? Do you know?" Yugito responded to Naruto. "I just hear some of these things from Jiraiya, but I'm sure Itachi one of the top Akatsuki members. Even though he doesn't have a big name like the Senins, He is very strong. Did you know that Orochimaru used to be in Akatsuki also? Well, Jiraiya told me that Orochimaru left because of Itachi. So, that just goes to show you how strong he is, Naruto stated to her. Yugito believed that he was the reason a Sennin had left the organization. It didn't look good. That was Sasuke's past. To answer your question, Sasuke isn't all bad. I remember when he risked his life to save mine during our first mission. He was also willing to give his life to save mine and Sakura's life when we were fighting Gaara. But, those are just stuff that he did. What really made him my friend was that he was one of the first people to recognize me, Naruto explained to her. Among the first people to identify him. Yugito thought, it's no wonder why Naruto loved him so much. Suande was gazing out her window when she noticed Yugito and Naruto strolling hand in hand. All she could do was smile to herself. Ino, Hinata, Shoji, Lee, and Sasuke were already at the restaurant when Naruto and Yugito arrived. Hey guys, Naruto said as he entered the room. Oh, are you guys together now? Was Ino's first response. She didn't even wait for them to sit down or greet them. Yugito simply smiled shamefully at her. On the other hand, Naruto grinned broadly and said, yeah Ino, we are. Hinata's heart fell and she nearly passed out when she heard this. Naruto is currently dating someone. Perhaps I could have been with him if I had been braver. Hinata thought, I just wish I had taken action sooner. How did it happen? You got to tell me everything Yugito because I know Naruto won't be giving me much details, Yugito replied to Ino. Yugito and Naruto sat down by Lee. Naruto sat down and asked Ino, and why should she give you the details? Simply glancing at him, she said, because we're girls and girls have to stick together. All Naruto did was roll his eyes. I saw that Naruto, Ino acknowledged him. In response, Naruto said, I wasn't exactly trying to hide it. Naruto, I think that Yugito is a beautiful flower and you two make a great couple. You both act so different and yet are very similar. You're the loud and emotional one while she's the calm and collected one. You guys are like different pieces that make a perfect fit, Lee told him. Naruto said, well, thank you for calling me emotional, to Lee. Naruto, Lee said, I didn't mean it like that. When Lee admitted to Naruto that he was emotional, Yugito simply laughed. Naruto thought, Lee always says some weird stuff, however, he somehow makes it seem right. Naruto questioned the group, so what's everyone doing here this early in the morning? When he said, I'm always here in the morning, Ino. Naruto raised an eyebrow at her and said, aren't you on some diet or something? Why are you here? Yes, but just because I'm on a diet doesn't mean I'm starving myself. I eat to be healthy, okay Naruto. More healthy than you, that's for certain. I eat 5 small meals a day to keep my metabolism high. I'm not like Sakura trying to starve myself to death, Ino responded. Despite the fact that Ino was not as firm as Yugito, Naruto could tell that she was a regular exerciser. Sakura was thinner and less muscular than Ino, which set her apart from Ino. I'm always here also. A good breakfast is needed for my training. Without proper fuel, I can't train as hard, Lee told Naruto. Shoji grinned and remarked, breakfast is another meal for me. I'm usually not here, but I decided I would come today, Hinata muttered. Naruto saw that she was not quite right. Then he asked, is something wrong Hinata? With a, oh no, nothing's wrong Naruto-kun, she replied. Although Naruto was certain that something was amiss, he concluded that Hinata didn't have to tell him if she didn't want to. For a moment there was silence. Well Sasuke, you going to get in the conversation or are you going to be the same Mr. Cool Guy who never talks? Naruto replied to him. Now that Sasuke was back, he was attempting to get him more involved with the group. The reason I'm here is the same reason as Lee, said Sasuke with a smug smile. So I never heard what happened to you. Did they give you a punishment or something? Naruto responded. He wanted to know if Sasuke was punished, but he really didn't want to bring up the memories of Sasuke's betrayal. Yay, they gave me a punishment. I won't be able to participate in the Chunin exam for another 5 years. Plus, I can't even go outside the village for 2 years, so I'm stuck doing D-rank missions till then. I guess I can live with that, Sasuke replied. At this, Naruto chuckled, saying, you're going to give Manabu Akuman a run for his money then, ha ha ha. Shut up Naruto. Last I heard you were still a genin also. Unlike me you don't have anything stopping you, Sasuke told him. Naruto said to Sasuke, I'll take it after I take care of some stuff. Sasuke was aware of Naruto's topic. He recalled Itachi pursuing Naruto. When he was still with him, Orochimaru also told him about Akatsuki. Sasuke asked him, so why are you here then Naruto? Naruto said, I just wanted to see if you guys were here, to the assembly. Then Ino interrupted him. And so you can tell us that you and Yugito are together, Ino offered with a smile. Yugito was drawn very close to Naruto as he put both of his arms around her. Yes, that's part of it. When I'm happy I want my friends to know. Plus I wanted to see you guys. I might be leaving tomorrow so I don't know when I'll see you guys again. You're going with me? Asked Yugito, bewildered. Naruto replied, of course, didn't you remember that I promised Kato I would escort you back? Hearing that he was taking her back made her happy. Ino remarked, oh, in the woods, you two alone, grinning evilly at Yugito and Naruto. Yugito blushed a little. This is an escort mission, Ino. I don't think Chan would let me go by myself alright, she was told by Naruto. Choji questioned her, Ino, is that all you think about? With a loud voice, Ino asked, what did you say, Choji? Choji was aware that his question was incorrect. They then placed their food order. Want to come with me to Chan's office? I got to tell her about escorting you back, Naruto asked Yugito, aware that it would take a while for the food to arrive. Yugito gave a nod. At this point, Ino said, wait, I'm coming too. Why? Naruto asked her, looking perplexed. To get Sakura to join us, duh. I can't be talking about you guys with only them. I won't be able to strike up an intelligent conversation about you guys with them, Ino told Naruto. Naruto said, gent, very slowly. For saying that, Ino gave Naruto a slap on the back of his head. Ino left them to look for Sakura when they arrived at the Hokage building, and Yugito and Naruto proceeded to Tsunade's office. Naruto rapped on the door of the Tsunade. Come in, replied Tsunade. Shizune was with Tsunade, who was seated in her chair, when Naruto entered. He was asked by Tsunade, what is it, Naruto? Yugito is going back tomorrow and I don't want her going back alone, so I was wondering if I can take her back to her village? Tsunade replied to Naruto. Because of her problem, Naruto was aware that Tsunade would offer her some escort, but he still desired to be the one. Tsunade said to him, sure, Naruto. On one condition, you must take one person with you. He was ecstatic from the inside out when he heard that. He was certain that Tsunade would have accompanied them with an entire Anbu team. Before he believed that there was no hope for improvement, Tsunade added, be back here in 2 months. Hearing this made him even happier. Naruto swiftly thanked her, took Yugito's hand, and walked away out of fear that she might change her mind. As Naruto shut the door, Shizune said, Tsunade. Sama, if I may? Tsunade said, yes, Shizune. What is it? What were you thinking? I mean, 2 Jinchuruki with only one other person with them? There's Akatsuki running around, shouldn't we have a group of ANBUs with them at the least? And you know that it only takes 2 weeks to get to the hidden village of Cloud, Shizune replied to her sensei. Tsunade rose from her seat and peered out the window, where she saw Naruto holding her hand as he ran slightly ahead of Yugito. Tsunade told herself that if he runs too fast, he will cause her to fall. She could see that her news had made him very happy. They're in love, Shizune. I'm pretty sure Akatsuki will be coming for one of them very soon. Plus I don't think Akatsuki would attack 2 Jinchurukis at the same time. I want them to be able to spend as much time as possible together. They would rather live a month together than live a lifetime by themselves, Tsunade told Shizune. Seeing the flaw in Tsunade's logic, Shizune told her, they might not attack both at the same time, but Naruto's coming back with only one person. Did you see the look on his face? He wasn't even thinking about how dangerous it was going to be for him. I haven't seen Naruto this happy in a long time, Shizune. It makes me happy. Besides, I have faith in him, Tsunade responded. Shizune comprehended. Yugito and Naruto returned to the eatery. The waitress was just beginning to serve their food when they arrived. Sakura was also present, sitting next to Ino with the group. Sakura said, so, it's true, as they entered. Naruto and Yugito sat down next to Sasuke. You know, Ino, I would have told Sakura. It's not like I'm trying to hide it, she replied to Naruto. I know. I just wanted to be the one telling everyone though, Ino replied. Does this stuff really appeal to girls? Naruto considered telling others about relationships. He simply gave a shoulder shrug. So how did it happen, Yugito? Naruto probably won't tell me, Sakura said to Yugito. Were you and Ino twins that were separated by birth? Ino said almost the exact same thing. Why are you guys so interested anyways? It seems that only you and Ino are the only ones interested, Sakura was told by Naruto. Because we are, okay Naruto, Sakura informed him. With a triumphant tone, Naruto addressed her, I don't think she'll tell you anyway. It's our little secret, huh? Yugito believed Naruto was correct. She wanted to keep their relationship a secret between them and no one else because it was so strange and unique. Sakura, a little concerned that she wouldn't hear back from Yugito, said, "No, Yugito wouldn't do that to us. Would you, Yugito?" "I'm sorry, Sakura and Ino, I really am, but Naruto's right. I want to keep this between us only," Yugito told them. Sakura and Ino exchanged large-eyed glances. They were even more intrigued by Yugito's delivery of the statement. With the exception of Sakura and Ino, everyone was eating. They were discussing their theories about Yugito and Naruto in great detail, all of which were far from accurate. Sasuke asked Naruto, "Are you escorting Yugito back?" To which Naruto replied, "Oh yay, I got to take one person with me." While rushing back with Yugito, Naruto had already made up his mind. Lee would be ideal, he thought. He knew Lee wouldn't mind, even though the mountain climb was challenging. In fact, Naruto believed that Lee would likely be pleased with its high level. Lee would also prefer to spar with Kato, so he would avoid Yugito and Naruto. He said to his friend, "Hey Lee, would you like to accompany me and Yugito to the hidden village of Cloud?" Fire was blazing in Lee's eyes. Despite his strong desire to meet Yugito's sensei, he believed Naruto would have asked someone else instead. "Yes, of course, I would love to." Ino, "Hey, what about me? I want to go," she said. Naruto questioned her, "Are you up for the challenge of climbing a 30,000-foot mountain?" Naruto brought this up, and Lee's eyes widened even more. "Oh, never mind, I forgot I have things to do, sorry," Ino said. Yugito was happy Naruto had chosen Lee to accompany them. He was a little strange, but Yugito liked him the most. He was kind and never bothered by her feelings or anything like that. In addition, he put in a lot of effort and didn't hesitate to ask questions about how to get better at taijutsu. Because of their very different styles, she also asked him a lot of questions about taijutsu. Yugito was also aware of Kato's strong affinity for Lee. Naruto told him, "We're going tomorrow. Okay Lee? Meet us up at the front gate at 7 o'clock. Lee smiled and gave him the thumbs up. For the remainder of the day, Yugito and Naruto did little more than stroll around. Once more, they shared a bed, this time Naruto's one-person bed. Yugito was already cooking when Naruto woke up the following day. Instead of her red lingerie, she was wearing black pajamas with yellow kitten faces. Naruto was wearing his blue pajamas as usual. Naruto questioned her, "So you're cooking for me in my house?" "Don't be silly, Naruto. You've been cooking for me for so long I thought it would be nice if I cooked for you also," she responded. "So, what are we having for breakfast?" asked Naruto, who moved behind her and put his arms around her waist. Yugito uttered, "Just some vegetables, bread, eggs, and milk." "What? No meat or ramen?" scowled Naruto. In response, Yugito said, "Nope, just a plain breakfast this early in the morning." Although Naruto didn't like this, he decided that fighting was pointless and decided to let it go. There was one thing that had been bothering her since yesterday. Naruto was asked, "So you're coming back by yourself, right? I'm worried about you." Naruto assured her, "Don't worry, I'm coming back with Lee." "But, that's the point. I know Lee's strong, but it's only you two, I thought Tsunade Sama would have sent more people with us," Yugito replied. Naruto reassured her, "Like I said, don't worry. You worry too much, Yugito." He was elbowed in the stomach. Although it didn't cause any harm, it made him say, "Of course I'm worried. It's not exactly Genins that are after you, you know." When Naruto said, "Don't worry, I got everything under control," he kissed her firmly on the cheek. Yugito told him, "You know what, I'm going to ask Kato to come back with you also." "No, don't do that," Naruto scowled as he addressed her. Ignoring him, Yugito said to herself, "Yes, that's what I'll do. I'm sure he won't mind." Knowing that she would already reject this, Naruto told her, "We'll be escorting each other back and forth then," but he had to give it a shot. "No, we won't be escorting each other back and forth. Kato isn't being hunted so he can make it back safely on his own," Yugito replied to him. "I'll just tell Kato not to worry, he'll understand," Naruto replied. "Yay, you go ahead and tell him that, we'll see what he chooses," replied Yugito. When the food was done, they all sat down to eat in their chairs. Naruto's distaste for the food was evident to Yugito. She smiled as she asked him, "You hate my cooking?" Naruto told her, "You know I don't hate your cooking. I hate this type of food. When did you get it anyways? I don't remember buying any of these," as he used his chopsticks to pick up tomatoes, lettuce, and carrots. "I got it the day when you were in the hospital with Tsunade Sama. You should eat a healthier diet sometimes, you know that, Naruto. At first I thought Ino was a person who just starved herself, but I was wrong. Maybe you can ask her for advice, Yugito replied. Huh, that's the last thing I'll ever do. Ask Ino on how to eat healthier. She'll never let off the hook after I ask her for something like that, said Naruto. Yugito said, okay, but it sounds like she knows what she's talking about. It doesn't matter, revealed Naruto. Together, they cleaned the plates after eating. While Naruto packed his gear and clothes, Yugito showered after his meal. Then Yugito got out, and they switched. It was time to leave at last. Lee was at the front gate when Naruto and Yugito arrived. He was performing push-ups with just one finger. 9,689, 9,690. Lee stood up as he sensed the presence of Yugito and Naruto. Hi Naruto, Yugito, I was just training while waiting for you guys, Lee replied. Cloud's hidden village. Lee was never winded, but that was because he was constantly training. When they arrived at the hidden village of Cloud, Lee asked Yugito, is this why you don't get winded easily? Because of the elevation here. Yugito smiled and said to him, sort of. I also train a lot. Lee said, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it that way. I know you do. Don't worry Lee, I didn't take it like that. We should go to my house. I'm pretty sure you want to meet my sensei, Yugito told him. Naruto knocked on the door when they arrived at the house. Just a minute, an internal voice said. Kato opened the door after a few seconds. Hey, if it isn't Naruto and Yugito. Is this the friend that you rescued from the snake? Senin? Kato inquired. No, this is the one that we rescued. He's one of my friends though. Lee, this is Kato. Sensei. Kato. Sensei, Lee, said Naruto. After exchanging handshakes, Lee and Kato went inside. Kato noticed that Yugito's left hand was interlocked with Naruto's right hand. Thus, Kato reasoned, my absence did have an impact. Everyone sat down in the living room. Kato asked, so Naruto, what happened during the mission? He heard Naruto's story. Kato stated, I see, Jiraiya. Sama is no longer with us. This could be big trouble, without revealing anything that would hint at Lee's identity of Naruto and Yugito. Kato, are you Yugito's sensei? If so, would you mind if we have a match together? Asked Lee, who was shocked to discover that Kato's sensei was only slightly older than him. Laughed. What have they been telling you? It sounds like you think I'm better than Yugito. Even though I am technically her sensei, don't think that I'm better than her. We're the same, so if you can keep up with Yugito, you can most likely keep up with me. But, I wouldn't mind if we spar. Let me show you the dojo. They then headed upstairs. Naruto was asked by Yugito, what do you want to do? Naruto said to her, we haven't trained or sparred in a long time. Want to do that? Sure, was her response. They then proceeded to the village's training area after leaving the house. Following their sparring match, Yugito and Naruto returned home. Naruto was taken aback when Kato informed him that Lee had already fallen asleep when they arrived at the house. He heard Naruto say, this early, although it wasn't precisely early, it wasn't late either, it was approximately 9 o'clock. Yes, he said something about sleeping so he can rest his muscle and train harder tomorrow. Saying that he needs 8+ hours of sleep so that he could train effectively. You know Naruto, to me, it looks like all Lee does it train, Kato replied to him. Basically, that's Lee for you, Naruto remarked. Well, I'm all sweaty, I'll go hop in the showers, Yugito replied. She then left Naruto and Kato alone. Kato. Sensei, why didn't you tell me you and Yugito were brother and sister? Naruto asked Kato after she departed. Surprised, Kato said, I thought you already knew Naruto. Well, you guys never really mentioned it. You always called her by her name and she always called you sensei. I always thought you guys were Naruto replied. Naruto's second remark, it's a bad habit I know, left Kato a little perplexed. But, we never show any signs that we were in a relationship. I always thought it was how shinobis were supposed to act in a relationship, he responded. Well, I'm truly sorry Naruto. But, look you guys are together now aren't you? Kato replied to him. Naruto said in a worried tone, yeah, but I just wish I had more time to spend with her. I'm real scared now Kato. Sensei. I will admit that I was scared when I found out Akatsuki was after me, but it's nothing compared to right now. When I found out that Yugito was a Jinchuruki also, I was truly scared for the first time in my life. I'm scared that I'll lose her. I don't know if I can go on living without the feeling of how I feel now. I don't want her to go Kato. Sensei, Naruto said to him in search of a response. This reminds me a lot of Naruto. Kato thought that he was more afraid of what would happen to other people than to himself. Don't worry Naruto, we'll protect her as much as we can. I won't lie to you and say that she'll be alright because you're old enough now, but I know that I'll protect her with my life. I know that you will too. In the end, let's just hope that it's enough, Kato told him. Yugito sat on the couch after taking a shower. Naruto said, I think I'll take a shower now, and he proceeded upstairs to do so. Kato remarked, so you know about his problem, I assume, as Naruto went upstairs. Yes brother, said Yugito. Did I hear her correctly? Kato pondered. Why the sudden change? I mean, I like it, but why now? Replied Kato. Well, because of my ways I lost some valuable time that I can't get back. I figured that I should try changing myself a little bit, Yugito told Kato. If it weren't for her habits, she considered the time she could have spent with Naruto. Kato remarked, you can truly transform people, Naruto. He's very worried about you, you know that? Kato questioned her. Yes, I do. I'm worried about him also. He's going back on his own, only with his friend. Would it be okay if you accompany him? Replied Yugito. Of course, I was planning on doing that anyways. I don't want him to get hurt also, Kato replied to her. Thank you, said Yugito. Kato smiled and asked her, why are you thanking me? I thought you said you were changing. Well, it's kind of hard okay, says Yugito. They decided it was time for bed when Naruto emerged from the shower. Kato went to his room, and Naruto followed Yugito to his room. On the following day, someone knocked on the door. Yugito opened it up. The female shinobi said, it's your guy's turn. You know what to do, and walked away. As Yugito shouted upstairs, Kato, we got to escort the merchant. Naruto and Lee followed Kato as he came downstairs. I was wondering when they would tell us. Well, let's go, Kato replied. Then Naruto said, where are we going? Kato said to him, let's go and I'll talk on the way. They followed Kato and obeyed. You see, we live near the top of a mountain and for us to get supplies, a resident travels to the country of Waterfall. We have groceries stores and little things in the country of Lightning, but for other things we need to get it at the country of Waterfall. It's far, but it's the closest place to our hidden village. While it's not an official mission, a shinobi family must escort the merchant each time whenever he goes. He goes about once or twice every 2 months. He also buys a lot of merchandise that supplies the village, so sometimes there are enemies that might target him and his merchandise. This time Yugito and I have to escort him, Kato explained to Naruto. Naruto addressed Kato, saying, where are we going then? We're not going to the front gate. We're going to the elevator, Yugito replied. The what? You guys have an elevator the whole time and we've been climbing this stupid mountain ever since I've been with you guys, said Naruto. Kato questioned him, and what has climbing the mountain done to you, Naruto? Naruto was aware of its actions. It strengthened him. He still didn't respond, though. Any respectable shinobi in this village would never use the elevator. The only time that we use it is to escort the merchant and for non-shinobis. There isn't a lot of non-shinobis that live in the hidden village of Cloud, so it hardly get used, Kato informed him. They arrived at the elevator. It was situated close to the town's edge, at the wall. A massive door opened when Kato pressed against the wall. It was enormous when they entered, measuring roughly 50 feet in width and 30 feet in height. It was camouflage, but Naruto was shocked because he had never seen anything this large before. We'll wait for the merchant in the meantime, Kato replied. After waiting for roughly 5 minutes, an elderly man showed up. He took very small steps and walked slouchily. 5 wagons were empty, and 2 oxen each walked them. With a voice full of hate, he arrived at Yugito and Kato and said, so it's you this time. This infuriated Naruto, who was about to confront the elderly man and express his disapproval when he felt a hand grip his wrist. Yugito simply shook her head as he turned to face her. The old man said, who are these people with you guys? I don't ever remember them, in the same vile tone. The response from Kato was normal. These are our friends, they'll be helping us escort you, she said. All right, the elderly man said. He entered the elevator. The elevator began to descend as soon as Kato pressed the button. Nearly 10 minutes had passed when Naruto sensed the elevator shifting sideways rather than downward. After 10 more minutes, Naruto could feel the elevator rising. He glanced outside as the elevator door opened. The mountain was a few miles away from them. Everyone exited and began to walk west. The first town in the country of Waterfall was reached after 5 days. The old man went to get some supplies once they arrived in town. The town was of a moderate size. In the rear, Naruto could make out a massive waterfall that merged into a river that cut through the center of the town. Each house was identical. Bricks were used to construct the homes. The roofs were red tiles. As they arrived in town, Naruto asked Kato, so what do we do now? It takes him pretty long, so you guys can go out for a while. Come back in 3 hours or so, replied Kato. Naruto told her, okay, I'm hungry. Let's go find a ramen place, Yugito. Yugito said, no, let's go to a nice restaurant today, in her typical tone. With a raised eyebrow, Naruto said, no, this time we're going to eat ramen. Nice restaurant. Ramen. Restaurant. Ramen. Neither of them backed down as they narrowed their eyes at one another. Kato told Lee, I think we should leave them. With a nod, Lee and Kato departed. Yugito calmly broke eye contact with Naruto and said, okay, we'll eat at a nice restaurant this time and we'll eat ramen next time. Naruto responded, no we won't, we'll eat ramen this time and eat at a nice restaurant next time. They went back to staring at each other. Naruto said, alright, let's Rochambeau then. Alright, replied Yugito. Person that win gets to choose where we eat, no ifs, ands, or buts. One win decides the winner, said Naruto. Yugito gave a nod. They spent roughly a minute playing Rochambeau. Yes, I won, declared Naruto. He signaled his victory by throwing up his right fist. Using her most helpless voice, Yugito said, come on Naruto. Let's go to a nice restaurant, please. Naruto smiled back at her and said, nope, you lost Yugito, we're going to a ramen place. Fine, said Yugito. She expressed her disapproval by crossing her arms. This time, they did not hold hands as they walked to the closest ramen restaurant. Naruto was unconcerned. He was confident she would move past it quickly. She wasn't the kind of girl who would harbor such a small grievance for very long. When they arrived at the ramen shop, they took seats next to one another. She was on the left, and Naruto was on the right. Naruto informed the waitress, I'll have 3 bowls of beef ramen and 3 bowls of pork ramen. When Yugito said, I'll just have 1 bowl of miso ramen. Naruto questioned her, does anything ever happen on this mission? Yugito had already moved on from her loss, as he had anticipated. Not really. Once in a long while there are shinobis that attack, Yugito replied. Yugito was curious about his past. She recalled Sakura telling her that Naruto had no parents. Yugito was curious about how he handled the icy looks. Even though her parents were now deceased, she still had Kato and them. Yugito said, Naruto, I wanted to ask you how you dealt with the hate. Leaning back in his chair, Naruto gazed at the ceiling. It was unclear to Yugito whether he was attempting to avoid the question or to recall. He responded a short while later. I won't lie, Yugito. It was hard. Part of the reason why I think that I handled it was because of old man Sarutobi keeping it a secret from my generation. The only shinobis that knew were the ones that fought the Kyuubi. I also didn't receive any special training or anything that would make me stand out. While most of the people in my generation didn't like me, a couple of us did get along. I remember when Shikamaru, Choji, Kiba, and I would pull pranks on Iruka, sensei. While we didn't hang out much, I think those pranks helped me a lot. It made me know that I was a part of something. Also, on my first day of graduating from the academy I learned that Iruka sensei really did care for me. He risked his life to save me even though he knew I held the Kyuubi. After that, it was Team 7. We didn't get along that well, but when the time came we protected each other with our lives. That showed me that they also cared for me. Then it went on from there, the Rookie 9 and Team Guy taking the Chunin exam together. We all became closer after the exam, Naruto said. As Naruto put it, so how about you? I didn't have friends growing up. Even now I don't have any friends, Yugito stated. You don't consider my friends, your friends? Naruto cut her off. I don't know. They seem nice and all, but I don't really know them that well. Maybe if I spent more time with them I could consider them real friends. Right now I see them as acquaintances. I don't even know if they like me or not, replied Yugito. Naruto stated, I'm pretty sure they like you, in a tone that implied he was aware of their opinions of her. He was asked by Yugito, how do you know? They're my friends. I can see when they've accepted a person or not. They've accepted you. I'm pretty sure they tried to include you into their conversation sometimes, said Naruto. Yugito reflected. Naturally, she recalled Ino and Sakura, but she also recalled Kiba asking her opinion of Sasuke. Back to your regular question. I think I managed because I had Kato and a family. My parents died a while back, but after that Kato was the one that looked after me. Other than that I don't have anyone else. That was until I met you about a year back. You were the first person who accepted me outside of my family, Yugito replied as he looked at him. Following that, they clasped hands. They started eating when the ramen arrived. They spent some time in the local shops after eating. There were only a few bookshops and gambling establishments, nothing particularly interesting. Naruto had never gambled and had no intention of doing so. He vowed never to start after witnessing what it had done to Tsunade. However, Yugito has already spent an hour or so playing slots. Standing behind her was Naruto. Naruto addressed her, saying, "Yugito, I don't want you to become a gambler like Nei-chan. Can we go now? There isn't anything to do here. Plus, we have about an hour left before we meet up with Kato, so why don't you just take a load off and play for a while," she said to him. "No, I don't want to. I've seen what happened to Nei-chan and I don't want to start. I also don't want you to be like her," Naruto said gravely to her. Yugito pulled the lever once more while laughing and not looking back. "Don't worry, I don't really like it. I'm just trying to kill time." This was the reality. Yugito had a strong dislike for gambling. The town simply didn't have anything to offer. However, she could see that Naruto wasn't persuaded when she turned to face him. She said, "All right, we'll go." When they noticed the elderly man in the wagons approaching, they waited for roughly half an hour. The old man was accompanied by Lee and Kato. As Kato appeared, Naruto questioned, "Everything finished?" "Yes, let's get going," asked Kato. They began to return on foot. Naruto and Yugito were close to the rear, with Kato and Lee in the front. For the following 3 days, they maintained this formation. The group sensed someone in the surrounding trees while they were out for a walk. Yugito and Naruto leapt right away to the front of the wagon, where the chakra originated. There was a chakra presence right before, but they haven't seen anyone yet. Without a doubt, they drew their kunai and assumed a defensive stance. Here she was anticipating their arrival. Naruto inquired, "Did you see the person?" His response was, "No, but I felt it also," from Kato. Kato exclaimed, "Come out, we've already felt you." No response was found. Lee was staring at the ground when he turned to face him. Was he afraid or what? I had no doubt that Lee had prior field experience. Now he can't be afraid, can he? Kato pondered. In the trees nearby were the foreign ninja. He was in his middle years, around 35. Like Ebisu, he wore a forehead protector and had green eyes. He was wearing the standard uniform pants and jacket. According to the forehead protector, he was from Waterfall's hidden village. 4 children. I'll remove them right away. That will make it easier. He leapt from the tree right away and began performing hand seals. Naruto, Yugito, and Kato all attempted to move but were unsuccessful as he landed 10 feet or so ahead of them and said, "Karada Chinu Setsuden, body-brain disconnection." They simply stood motionless. "I can't move. Damn it," Naruto thought. The man threw 4 kunais right away, 1 for each of their heads. Lee sprinted to seize Naruto, Yugito, and Kato as soon as he sensed the approaching kunais. Before the kunais could connect, he was able to seize them all and push them aside. Lee leapt up close to the third wagon and placed them beside it. He leapt back to the front right away to face the man. He's quick. At such close quarters, he managed to rescue all 3 of his friends. One person, I can see him getting, but all 3? He appeared to maintain his speed even while carrying them. He's not to be taken lightly, the ninja thought. "My name is Shota," replied the ninja to Lee. Lee did not respond to him. He kept his eyes on Shota's feet. Shota told Lee, "So serious. At least give me your name." He hasn't responded to him yet. Shota pulled out a second kunai. As Lee came down, he leapt at him and attempted to slit him. Lee stepped aside right away and came up behind him, kicking him in the back with a right that sent him crashing to the ground. Shota stood up again. To his surprise, the young man was once more staring at the ground. "What is this idiot up to?" Shota instructed. Lee simply leapt to avoid the blow when he attempted a sweeping kick. Lee gave Shota a right hook to the face as he was descending from his leap, knocking him back to the ground 5 feet. "Is Shota making fun of me?" He got back up. "While I'm lying down and staring at the floor, I'm not attacking." Lee continued to gaze at the ground. Shota noticed that the other 3 shinobis were still immobile due to their genjutsu when he turned to his left. Leaping to his feet, he hurled 6 kunais in their direction. Lee pulled out a kunai with his left hand and immediately moved in front of his friends, blocking the 6 kunais. Lee returned his kunai to his pouch. Shota thought, "Damn, this kid. Alright, let me first weaken him a bit." After performing a few hand seals, he said, "Namori no jutsu, sleep jutsu." His hands began to play a slow, gentle tune. When he ran to kick Lee, he discovered that Lee had vanished from view. What happened to him? Did he not feel the effects of my genjutsu? He noticed the young boy preparing to kick him when he looked down. Lee kicked him hard to the right, sending him skyward. Then, leaping into the air, he delivered a forceful left punch to Shota's stomach, causing him to fall back down more quickly. Lee went straight under Shota and delivered a right uppercut to his back before he hit the ground. The hit connected with a loud crack. Shota suffered a broken spinal cord. Lee went to the group right away. Lee used his right hand to draw a kunai. After saying, "I'm sorry, Naruto, but I don't know how to break genjutsu and I know you the most. So I guess it'll be you," he gave Naruto a sharp stab wound to his right leg. Naruto exclaimed, "Oh, www," after being stabbed in the leg. His left leg supported the majority of his weight as he stood up. "You didn't have to stab that hard," Naruto informed him. "I'm sorry, Naruto. I assumed it was a high-class genjutsu, so I had to do enough pain to snap you out of it," Lee responded. Lee made the right choice. Since it was a high-class genjutsu, releasing it must have caused a great deal of pain. After glancing at Yugito and Kato, Naruto held up his hand and said, "Kai." Yugito and Kato stood up as he said that. Yugito said, "Lee, you saved us all," and stood up. "No problem," exclaimed Lee. "Shall we continue our journey?" "Yes," said Kato. Yugito and Naruto moved to the back, while Kato and Lee took their places in the front. As he and Lee leapt to the front, Kato questioned, "Lee, how come you weren't affected by the genjutsu?" Lee remarked, "I didn't look at him, that explains why he was staring at the ground." Kato reasoned that he didn't want to be caught in a genjutsu, not because he was afraid. Kato asked him, "How do you fight without looking at the opponent?" "Easy, I just look at their legs. It's pretty easy once you get used to it," Lee replied. "Wonderful, Lee, you must teach me that when we return," Kato told him. Lee merely chuckled. "How about other ways of affecting you without sight? Seeing a person is not the only way to cast a genjutsu," Kato replied. "That's true. Even though about 80 of genjutsu are cast when the victim sees a person, there are other ways. I have ways of dealing with those too," Lee stated. "How?" inquired Kato inquisitively. Taking a small earpiece out of his ears, Lee said, "Here's how. Go ahead and try them on." Once Kato had the earpiece, she put it on. Strangely, it had no effect. Lee said to him, "So can you hear me?" "Yay, I can hear you," Kato answered. Lee gave his left thigh a tapping motion. He moved ahead of Kato. Lee was, and his mouth was moving. Was he speaking? Kato pondered. There was no sound for him to hear. Not the wagons following him, not the sound of the wind, not the sound of Lee. Kato had no hearing at all. He removed the earpiece once more. "So that's how you deal with the genjutsu coming from sound waves," Kato explained. "Yes," said Lee. Kato questioned him, "How do you know what commands are given then?" "I can lip read. My team usually knows that I'm deaf during a confrontation, so they try to speak so that I can see their lips," Lee responded. "That's usually the other way genjutsu are cast. They consist of about 10 of the genjutsu that are casts. As for the touching genjutsu, I just try not to get touch," Lee laughed. "For smell, I just breath through my mouth, so that takes care of that. Taste genjutsu are rarely used. They're usually only used in preparation, so I don't really worry about those," Lee stated. He was asked by Kato, "What about ninjutsu then?" "I just follow the chakra. I just try and not get hit by it," replied Lee. "Don't you want to see what they've cast so that you might learn it later or how dangerous it is?" Kato asked him. "No, not really. I just avoid all of them like they're dangerous. Naruto hasn't told you about my disability yet, has he?" Lee replied. Kato indicated that Naruto had not brought up Lee by shaking his head. "I don't know why, but the group never mentions it to anyone. I'm guessing that they think it'll hurt my feelings or something, but to tell you the truth it doesn't. Well, I can't mold my chakra to use ninjutsu or genjutsu, so there's no reason to look at the hand seals. That's also why I can't afford to get caught in a genjutsu. If I do and there isn't another person around, I'll most likely die," Lee informed him. Kato remarked, "You've become a shinobi by only using taijutsu." "Yes," Lee replied. He must have very strong taijutsu if he prepared so thoroughly to avoid genjutsu. Whatever he says, it must have taken years to defeat an opponent based solely on their foot movements. In our previous sparring, I knew he was holding back, but I wasn't sure how much. He must have held back much more than I initially believed, Kato thought, even though of course I was also holding back. "So you were holding when we were sparring," Kato replied. It was accurate. In a spar, Lee saw no reason to remove his weights. It would be crazy to use his gaits in a fight. When they were sparring, he could also tell that Kato wasn't giving it his all, saying, "Yes, I sense that you were also." Until they arrived at the hidden village of Cloud, they kept conversing. Cloud's hidden village Yugito could sense that Naruto was not feeling well when they arrived home. Naruto's behavior changed after the shinobi attacked them. He appeared to be bothered by something. Lee and Kato went straight to the third floor dojo. Yugito entered their bedroom with Naruto. Yugito had her back against his front side as she lay on top of him. He encircled her with his arms. "What's wrong, Naruto? I could sense that something's been bothering you ever since we were attacked. Is it because you weren't the ones that saved us?" Yugito joked with him. Naruto said, "No, that's not it," with a serious tone. In her typical tone, Yugito asked him, "So, what's wrong then?" "If I couldn't break free from that genjutsu, then I don't know how I can break from any genjutsu that is casted by Akatsuki," said Naruto. In an attempt to cheer him up, Yugito said, "It was a difficult one to break out of. I couldn't break out of it either." "Yay, it was hard, but still. I'm sure that Akatsuki can cast harder genjutsus than that," said Naruto. Yugito questioned him, "So that what's been bothering you, Akatsuki?" "Yes," said Naruto. "Naruto, you're letting Akatsuki get to your mind too much. They're not even doing anything right now and they're still getting to you," Yugito told him. "I'm sorry, Yugito, but I can't stop thinking about them," Naruto replied. Yugito questioned him, "Can't you just stop thinking about them?" "No, not really," replied Naruto. Yugito asked him, "How are you going to live if you're always thinking about them?" "Before I didn't think about them as much when they were just after me. But, after I found out who they were also after, I couldn't stop," she was told by Naruto. Yugito reasoned that she was the reason Naruto was constantly considering Akatsuki. "Naruto, I can take care of myself, you know. Just relax a little and try to enjoy our time together," Yugito told him. She pivoted to make eye contact with him. Her expression was solemn. Yugito did not want Naruto to think about Akatsuki all the time. He was in a mood that she didn't like. Naruto saw her face and said, "Okay, I'll try, Yugito." According to Yugito, "Thank you, that's all I ask." With her back against his front, she resumed her position. Immediately, Naruto firmly seized her in both of his arms. They both fell to the ground as she struggled. She said, "Naruto, let me go, that's not fair," as they fell to the ground. Now they had them on their side. Yugito struggled, but she couldn't escape his tight hold. Naruto addressed her, saying, "Who's the strongest? Answer this and I'll let you go." "Then we'll see who's the strongest," Yugito said, still struggling. "Stop cheating and let me go." After she answered, "Who's the strongest?" Naruto said, "I'll let you go." Yugito remarked, "It certainly isn't you." She was informed by Naruto, "Biz, wrong answer." His arms tightened around her. In a firm voice, Yugito said, "Naruto, I'm serious. Let me go now." Naruto did not take her threats seriously. Naruto remarked, "You're not answering the question," to her. He then tightened his grip. She was attempting to escape his grasp. She tried using the back of her head to head-butt Naruto, but it barely made contact with his chest. She was unable to gain enough momentum to harm him. "Fine, you're the strongest," she said in a very low voice, almost whispering, since she was powerless to stop herself. Naruto uttered, "What? I can't hear you," Yugito stated, "You're the strongest," in her typical tone. Naruto instructed her, "Who's the strongest? Say the name and in a sentence." Yugito stated, "Naruto is the strongest," in her typical tone. Yes, that is true, Naruto is the strongest. Now you know that also," Naruto told her. Naruto released his hold. Yugito was rising, and he saw it. Yugito only partially stood up. She swiftly positioned her left leg beneath Naruto's left side of the stomach while feigning to stand up. She moved her right leg around the opposite side of his stomach and lowered herself behind him. He was in a scissor leg lock with her. Yugito began strangling Naruto by putting one arm around his neck. "The strongest should never let their guard down. Who's the strongest now?" Yugito inquired. In an attempt to break her chokehold, Naruto's hands swiftly moved to his neck. "Yugito, you're choking me." "Shut up, Naruto. You better answer the question or you'll run out of breath soon," Yugito said to him. Naruto's voice was raspy as he said, "I can't breathe." Yugito said, "You're not answering the question," as she tightened her hold. Naruto continued to struggle. Her grip was too tight. Despite his best efforts to free himself, he was also rapidly losing oxygen. His voice was low. Okay, you're the strongest," he said. She relaxed her grip slightly to allow him to speak, realizing that he was unable to speak louder. Yugito was prepared for this, but Naruto took advantage of the situation to break free. Before he could move, she tightened her grip again. "Didn't I say the strongest should never let their guard down? Try that one more time, Naruto, and I won't let you go the next time. I'll show you who's the strongest instead," Yugito told him. She kept choking him in a rear naked position. She didn't say anything for about a minute. He was asked again by Yugito, "So, who's the strongest?" Naruto was unable to speak louder, so he said, "You are," in a low voice. "I'm going to loosen my grip so you can talk a little bit louder, but you better remember what I said earlier," Yugito told him. She relaxed her hold slightly, but not enough to be comfortable. After he remained silent for a few seconds, Yugito asked, "So, are you going to answer?" Naruto said, "You're the strongest," louder this time. Yugito said to him, the name and in a sentence. According to Naruto, Yugito is the strongest. Yes, I know that. And you're her boyfriend, aren't you glad?" Yugito replied. She released her hold and rolled over him while staring into his eyes. While he was breathing and rubbing his neck, Naruto said, "Damn Yugito, you didn't have to choke me, you know." Yugito responded, "Just teaching you a lesson," and she kissed him on the lips. She was relieved that Naruto was feeling better now. Yugito left Naruto and stood up. Yugito asked him in a somewhat serious tone, "Naruto, don't look, okay? Because I'm going to change for bed now." Naruto remained on the ground. He gave her a quick glance. Despite spending nearly a week together, Yugito has remained the same in front of Naruto. Before going to bed, she would always change in the shower. The first time they slept together was the only occasion he saw her body. She would always change into her pajamas after that. Naruto told himself that this was not a chance to be lost. He couldn't stop thinking about seeing her body. He was startled out of his reverie by Yugito's question, "Are you going to answer me?" Naruto said, "Sure Yugito, I won't look," and put his hands over his eyes. Yugito had a feeling something wasn't right. Her voice was serious but worried as she said, "Promise me that you won't look, Naruto." "Don't worry, I won't look," Naruto stated. He was unable to conceal the smile that said he was thinking about something else. "You haven't promised?" asked Yugito. To which Naruto replied, "I won't, don't worry about it." When Yugito said, "Fine, if you're going to be like that," everything turned black as she performed a few hand seals of absolute darkness. About 30 seconds were spent in total darkness. "Kai," she said. Yugito was wearing purple pajamas with yellow cat eye designs on them when the darkness vanished. She could see Naruto was disappointed when she looked at him. He was wearing a little frown. "I didn't teach you that jutsu so that you could use it on me, you know. I also said that I wouldn't look," said Naruto to her. "Well, you didn't promise, so I had to do what I had to do," Yugito answered right away. "It's not like you were going to completely undress," Naruto said in a dejected tone. "I just wanted to see your body again." Calmly, "I'm a little embarrassed, Naruto," she said. Naruto inquired, "Embarrassed of what?" "From what I remembered it was fine with me." "Don't know, I just am okay," Yugito revealed to him. Her tone conveyed that this was her last response. Naruto stopped questioning her about her body. Although she wasn't yet angry, Naruto could tell that if he persisted, she would be. Yugito returned to his bed. She was lying with her arms behind her head and her back to the bed. After getting up, Naruto undressed. When Naruto said, "You can see me," he laughed. He got into his bed linens. Naruto was dressed in red pajamas with designs of orange fox faces on them. "It's different, you're a guy and I'm a girl," Yugito answered. He glanced at Yugito after he had dressed. He recalled why Tsunade had allowed him to come alone, and he forgot all about Akatsuki. Instead of worrying about Akatsuki, it was to spend time with Yugito. "While I'm here, I'll be spending more time on Yugito than Akatsuki. I just want to spend as much time as possible with her right now. I can deal with that later." On top of her, Naruto was lying. His head lay slightly above her chest. "Sorry about before, Yugito, I forgot why Chan let me come by myself," Naruto said softly to her. "It's okay, Naruto," Yugito replied. They fell asleep after she wrapped her arms around his head. Yugito found herself in an unfamiliar forest. She glanced around to find her location, but the dense fog made it difficult to see much. The intense moonlight was the only thing that could be seen. On one of the branches was a very house cat. She was shocked to discover that it was nearly half her size. Other than the large yellow eyes, she was unable to identify the color of the cat. Yugito thought the cat was dark. The cat gave her the creeps as she passed it slowly because it kept staring at her. She could feel the cat's eyes piercing her back even as she passed it. After walking for a minute or two more, she turned around. The two small glowing eyes were still staring at her, as Yugito could see. After 5 more minutes of walking in the dark, she came across 2 small lights. She became aware that it wasn't a light as she approached the lights more closely. The eyes were enormous. Did the eyes look the same as before? Yugito passed it a little more quickly this time. The cat continued to stare at her. The same look was still on its face. She continued to walk for about a minute without turning around. Her heart was pounding. Yugito was aware that the cat's gaze was still fixed on her. She accelerated, nearly running now. About a minute later, she turned to see a small, injured fox on her left side, hardly bigger than a house cat. It was gasping for air and its nose was bleeding profusely. Yugito approached it. She could tell it was afraid. She heard something land behind her at that very moment. The cat was approaching her, staring at her with his enormous eyes. She was so terrified that she froze. The cat's eyes turned blood red as soon as it got within 5 feet of her after running closer and closer. She couldn't believe it, but she could see that the cat had an evil smile as it walked by her. Instead of attacking her as she had feared, the cat grabbed the small fox by the mouth and carried it to a nearby branch. It started eating the insides of the small fox after tearing its stomach. Even as it consumed the little fox, its gaze remained fixed on Yugito. Its eyes were once again yellow. Although Yugito knew the poor fox was already dead, he still wanted to save it. She kept moving forward. About 10 minutes later, she noticed what appeared to be a small fire. Yugito then moved in the direction of the fire. She approached the fire with caution. She could make out some human outlines as she drew nearer. They were about 20 feet away from her. Although Yugito could hear some whispers, he was unable to decipher their meaning. As she moved in closer, she noticed that there were 10 figures. However, one of the figures didn't appear to be correct. It didn't appear to be standing on the ground and was in an awkward position. No, it appeared as though he or she was floating aimlessly for a few feet while holding their neck in an odd position. Yugito moved closer because she wanted to see what was going on. The other 9 people turned around at that very moment. They simply stood there without saying anything. The tiny flames suddenly exploded, revealing the 9 people's faces to her. Every one of them was beaming broadly. Akatsuki was the one. With horror, she turned to face the other figure and realized it was Naruto. She was mistaken to believe that he was floating. Lifeless, he was hung from a branch. Nothing came out of her scream. Despite her best efforts, she was running in place. Despite her best efforts to run as quickly as she could, she felt as though she was being pulled back in some way. The 9 figures continued to smile evilly at her. Yugito, Yugito, wake up, Naruto commanded. She refused to wake up even though he was shaking violently next to her. Yugito turned and kicked. Bam, she said as she opened her eyes, pushing Naruto so hard that he struck the ceiling and left a massive imprint of himself. The attack left him momentarily dazed. She leapt to her feet and used her right hand to swipe at him as he slowly fell from the ceiling. He hit the wall as a result. After sliding down the wall, Naruto stood up. He saw Yugito standing on the bed when he got up. 2 tails emerged from behind her, and a purple flame encircled her. And she had a totally different attitude. Yugito's hands were hanging in front of her as she stooped. And now she had claws on her fingers. Her eyes were the most obvious change. Her once soft, blue eyes had changed. Now they were yellow and slitted. A loud bang at the door was audible to Naruto. Lee and Kato tried to enter from the opposite side but were unsuccessful. Stand back, Lee, spoke Kato. He gave the door a forceful kick, but it remained in place. It was locked for some reason. Yugito remarked, I sense something else in you. Her voice had vanished. It was a very old voice, low. Yugito, wake up, shouted Naruto. Without paying attention, Yugito leapt at Naruto and attempted to use her left hand to swipe him. He jumped onto the ceiling to avoid it, but he was able to avoid one of her tails in time, and Naruto was caught by the waist. He was unable to act because his arms were likewise between his tail. Naruto sensed that his waist and arms were on fire. I'm burning from the chakra. Yugito looked at Naruto as he slowly drew him closer. She laughed ominously. In the same ominous laugh, Yugito said, so this is why I was set free. She was dreaming about you. This is the first time I've been let free. Let her go, said Naruto. Yugito's right hand seized Naruto's face. Her tail was still encircling him, so even though his face was burning now, there was nothing he could do. He went through the wall and into the walkway after Yugito slammed him so forcefully into it. Yugito noticed 2 people when she turned to her right. After dropping Naruto, she approached Lee and Kato slowly. Lee, we have to kill her, announced Kato. Lee gave a nod. Lee removed his weights right away. Yugito swung one of her tails and knocked him to the ground as he flew at her at high speed. While Lee was still on the ground, she leapt at him and attempted to strike him in the stomach. The right side of his stomach was grazed by the attack, but he was able to move just enough. There was a hole where her hand had been when she took it off. In order to protect his stomach from the pain, Lee knelt. He also felt a burning sensation on his side. When Kato leapt at Yugito, he was kicked in the right roundhouse, sending him tumbling down the stairs. Yugito instantly swiped one of her tails after sensing something approaching from behind. Naruto was knocked back through the bathroom door and landed headfirst on the bathtub's edge. He was now bleeding on the side of his head. He rose slowly and saw Yugito sprinting toward him. They went straight through the bathroom wall after she grabbed him by the stomach. Now they were outside, plummeting from the second story. While they were falling, Yugito lost Naruto. Yugito was the first to stand up after they landed on their backs. Knowing that the ground wasn't a good place to be, Naruto also got up. I have to go somewhere else with this. This place is overcrowded. Without delay, he leapt onto the rooftop and began to hop from one roof to another. Yugito followed him after jumping on the rooftops as well. He noticed that she was closing in on him when he turned to look behind him. Two shadow clones appeared and attempted to attack Yugito, but they vanished in a cloud of smoke as soon as they approached her. Naruto crossed his finger and uttered the words, "Kage Bunshin." He was tripped when she threw one of her tails at him. Naruto was the first to fall face first. He turned around as he sensed Yugito close by. She was in midair, poised to use her claw-like hand to attack his face. She punched through the roof after he dodged. The right hand of Yugito became lodged in the roof. Naruto took advantage of this chance to distance himself from her. She was able to break free and continued her pursuit. A voice called out, "Raikage Sama." His door was knocked on as well. "Come in," said the Raikage. The shinobi said, "Can you feel that? It's Yugito. We have to stop her." With a simple glance out the window, the Raikage said, "No, I see that someone else is already. Let's hope that they both die." With a bewildered expression, the shinobi said, "But surely you don't mean that. Do you question my reasoning? Yugito is no longer important to this village. She has become weak and we do not need weak shinobis," he replied loudly. The shinobi questioned him, "So, we're just going to let her run around and kill all the people in this village?" "No, we're going to let that boy kill her and hopefully she kills him in the process," replied the Raikage. He was aware that he couldn't kill Naruto directly because war would break out if the hidden village of Leaf discovered that he had done so. They will offer her an apology if Yugito killed Naruto but lived. The hidden village of Cloud will put pressure on the hidden village of Leaf to turn Naruto over if he kills Yugito. Although he was aware that the boy and the Hokage were close, the Raikage also knew that the majority of the council did not want the boy in their village. Additionally, the council still viewed Yugito as useful, so he was unable to kill her directly. When Jiraiya brought the boy to town, the Raikage recalled it. At first, he didn't give the boy much thought, but as time passed, he realized that the boy was having an impact on Yugito. He knew the council was mistaken, but none of them believed this. He could plainly see that he was correct now that the boy had returned. The village no longer needed Yugito. The Raikage hoped they killed each other as he peered out his window. When Naruto arrived at the training area, he halted. Yugito leapt onto the stage before stopping as well. The old voice remarked, "So you're not going to run anymore?" "I never planned to run away from you. I needed a good location," Naruto replied. He was aware that the Nibi could only be stopped in this manner. "I need your assistance, Fox." A grin emerged as two large, red eyes opened. "You've finally come to the conclusion that you do need me. I assumed that after you injured your sensei, you would no longer use me. That is not for this moment. Stupid Fox, hurry up or we'll perish." "Is that a kid of threats?" the Kyuubi said in a dull voice. "I don't feel like it." At that moment, the Kyuubi sensed an ancient power. The Kyuubi grinned. "Okay, kid. I'll assist you just to demonstrate my strength in comparison to others." The Kyuubi chuckled before disappearing into the distance. Yugito was approaching Naruto at a leisurely pace when she sensed something. She paused and grinned. The old voice replied, "Is it really who I think it is? Is that you, you damn fox? I thought I felt something different radiating from this kid. I can see this will be better than I expected." Naruto began to sprout a tail as red flames began to envelop him. After a short while, more tails started to show up, eventually reaching 5. His eyes turned from soft blue to bright red, and they became slits. Naruto also developed much longer nails and canines. "Kid, what are you doing? I promised to give you some authority. Why do you only use this much? Beating the Nibi like this will be difficult," the Kyuubi uttered loudly. "Since Yugito is currently unable to control her Biju, I must be able to control the Kyuubi." Naruto told himself that he could not risk losing control. "I know what I'm doing, so shut up, Fox. You foolish boy, you're going to kill us." The Kyuubi was disregarded by Naruto. In her age-old voice, Yugito asked, "Is that all you have?" Before his jutsu could trap her, Yugito leapt out of the way as Naruto began performing some hand seals, lightning paralysis. Naruto repeatedly performed the same hand seals, but each time he missed. When Yugito attempted to strike his chest, Naruto blocked the blow by raising 4 of his tails. His 5th tail was used to seize Yugito. He used his other tails to hold her closer after deflecting her attack. Naruto said, "Come on Yugito, find a way through it," to her. Yugito simply grinned evilly at him. She shattered his grip as her chakra surged. They were 10 feet apart and facing each other. She tried to attack him once more, but Naruto stopped her. "Kit, what are you doing? Combat her," the Kyuubi commanded. "I said, shut up, Fox. I know what I'm doing." Disregarding the Kyuubi, Naruto resumed blocking the attacks. Before Yugito finally stopped, this continued for roughly 4 minutes. The distance between them was roughly 20 feet. "Haha, Fox. You're pretty weak. I guess I'll kill you and name myself the strongest of us all," Yugito replied. The boy resisted the Kyuubi's attempt to inject him with more chakra. The boy was being held back by his chakra. His chakra was also being restrained by the seal. The Kyuubi was losing his temper. He was upset with the foolish boy for not defending himself. For enclosing him in a feeble vessel that would not attack another, he cursed the Yondaime. The Kyuubi was furious that the Nibi had made fun of him. He was aware that if they weren't both sealed, the foolish cat wouldn't have a chance. With all his might, he dashed for the cage, but the seal pushed him back. After a few hand seals, Yugito exclaimed, "Pa! Puru Hinotama, purple fireball." Behind him, roughly 50 purple flames the size of volleyballs emerged. They swiftly headed straight for Naruto. They were all avoided by him. Yugito had another set of fireballs behind her before he noticed. There were roughly 100 of them this time. Once more, they pursued Naruto. He dodged the majority of them, but some struck him. Despite being protected by the Kyuubi's chakra, he was immediately damaged by the flames. This went on for about a minute more. At last, Yugito halted and chuckled, saying, "Look like it's finished." Naruto was baffled as to why the Nibi believed it was complete. Then he turned to his left and noticed 100 or so purple flames beside him. He then noticed the same thing when he turned to his right. Naruto was aware of what was behind him already. He was so focused on avoiding the fireballs that he failed to notice the ones that had previously been set up by him. Yugito hurled her final fireball directly at him. He was now confined, but she hadn't yet struck him. Naruto had no means of escape. Yugito held out her right hand, palms facing out. She said, "Good dot by Fox," and then she shut her hands. All of the fireballs surrounded Naruto as she did this. Naruto positioned himself defensively, using his hands and arms to shield his face, but the flames were too intense. Naruto was unconscious on the ground following the attack. He was bleeding from head to toe and had third-degree burns. Yugito approached him and noticed that the child was already starting to recover on his own. She put her hands on his stomach while performing Biju Gokuen, Biju Seal, hand seals. Right on top of Naruto's stomach was a massive X. Her words, "That should stop you, Fox." Yugito looked at Naruto and used her left hand to grab him by the throat. She withdrew her right hand and raised him slightly. Yugito punched through Naruto's right chest after focusing her chakra into her right hand. Her eyes abruptly returned to their blue color after being slitted. They started switching between yellow and blue. She knelt on the ground and grasped her head. Her hands were clenching her head as she rolled on the floor. "No," yelled Yugito. She struggled to maintain control over her body. The Nibi thought to itself, "No, not now." At last, her eyes turned completely blue once more. Even though she was worn out, she could clearly see what had happened and knew she had to save Naruto. With haste, Yugito approached Naruto and put her ears to his heart. There was still a slight pulse in her chest. "Please wait, Naruto." She hurried to the hospital after placing the bloody Naruto on her shoulders. When she arrived, she noticed a nurse at the hospital counter reading something. Yugito discovered that the glass door was locked when he attempted to open it. The nurse looked up when she rapped on the door. The nurse simply lowered her head once more and began to read. Yugito knocked loudly once more, but the nurse didn't answer. Yugito was aware that they would not assist her. She was enraged. They weren't helping Naruto, but she didn't care that they wouldn't help her. Yugito kicked the glass door hard and walked out. She made the decision to leave since she was aware that she would not be permitted to use any of their equipment. Now that she was worried, she was unsure of what to do. She took Naruto back to her house, which was the only thing left to do. Instead of going through the door when she returned home, She leapt through the wall on the second floor. She carried Naruto to their room after landing in the bathtub. She saw Lee and Kato as soon as she entered the hallway. Lee was being escorted to his room by Kato. Despite the large bandage covering his stomach, Lee appeared to be in good health. However, she noticed a large blood stain passing through the bandage. Kato appeared to have a broken left arm. "I am," Yugito uttered. Lee cut her off. He said, "Don't worry about that. It looks like Naruto needs your help more than us. We can talk about it later." He gave her a feeble thumbs up. After giving a nod, she left for her room. Naruto was put on the bed by Yugito. He was no longer breathing, and she could see it. She put her ears to Yugito's chest. She was unable to sense or hear a heartbeat. Her heart fell. She was aware of her obligations. It was a matter of life or death. She could only save him in this manner. She didn't even consider the possibility that it might endanger her life. Her body gave off a faint blue glow as she performed Itonami Shiringu, life-sharing, hand seals. He was put on the bed by Yugito. In an attempt to make as much body contact as she could, she held him close to her. Yugito covered them with the blanket. She shed a tear from her eye. "Naruto, please don't die." After the first hour, her chakra was already starting to falter, but she forced herself to keep going. She considered what would happen if she gave up or lost consciousness in order to maintain this will. She kept this thought in mind so she wouldn't give up, even though she knew she could never allow that to happen. After 4 more hours of holding him, she sensed a slight movement in him. He was breathing a little, too. Although he was still unconscious, Yugito could feel that his respiratory, circulatory, and neurological systems had returned. In case he woke up, she made the decision to keep the jutsu. Naruto didn't open his eyes for another half hour. When he woke up, it was around 6 in the morning. Every part of his body hurt. He was still unable to move and was obviously not fully recovered. He smiled and said, "Hey," in a weak voice. "Naruto," she uttered. Her eyes began to well up with tears. Naruto said, "I thought you would be happy seeing me alive," with a little laugh. "I am, it's just that, I thought I lost you," Yugito replied. Naruto put his arms around her waist and said, "Well, I'm still okay. I can't move right now though, so I guess I'll just stay where I am. I like it here anyways." He was so tired that he fell asleep. She told him, "I like it with you also Naruto," but he was fast asleep. Yugito dozed off from exhaustion as soon as she let go of the jutsu. They woke Naruto up at around 6 o'clock in the afternoon. There was a slight improvement in Naruto's wounds, but not much. The majority of his minor burns and wounds had already healed. He didn't want to wake Yugito, so he didn't move away from her. When he raised the blanket, Naruto was taken aback. Blood was all over them. He simply held her and made the decision to wake up when she did. About half an hour passed before Yugito awoke. She looked at Naruto sadly. For about a minute, they simply gazed at one another. "Maybe we should take a shower, we are kind of bloody," Naruto said, refusing to accept her apology for what she had done. She simply gave a slight nod. Yugito climbed out of bed and picked up a towel. There was a huge hole in the bathroom on the second floor, so she also got some clothes and went downstairs. Lee and Kato weren't downstairs yet, which pleased her. Despite not having taken a shower yet, Naruto also got up and changed into shorts. It was a night to remember, he reflected. Naruto seized Yugito's bloody clothing, the bedsheet covers, and the bloody blanket. In the corner, he placed them. Naruto waited for Yugito to exit the shower by going downstairs. Yugito took 10 minutes or so to exit the shower. After that, Naruto went to shower. Upon emerging, he noticed that Yugito, Lee, and Kato were seated at the dining table, anticipating his arrival so they could begin their meal. Lee had a large bandage across his stomach, and Kato had a sling around his left arm. While they were eating, nobody spoke. Naruto carried the dishes to the sink once everyone had finished. Yugito asked the group, "Can I talk to Lee alone?" After giving a nod, Naruto and Kato left the house. Knowing the answer, Lee asked her, "So, what is it that you want, Yugito?" "I'm sorry about yesterday, Lee," Yugito said. "Don't worry, Kato told me all about it already. It wasn't you," Lee assured her, grinning broadly and giving her the thumbs up. "But I almost killed you," Yugito answered him. "What? You mean this?" Lee said, gesturing to his abdomen. "Don't worry, this is nothing. Like I said earlier, it wasn't you that almost killed me. It was the thing inside of you. There's a difference, Yugito, and you should know that." But Yugito attempted to respond, but Lee simply signaled with his right hand that he didn't want to listen to her justify why she was to blame for his injuries. "Did Kato also tell you about Naruto?" Yugito sighed. "Yes, he did," Lee said in response. "Naruto's still the same person and so are you." I would have liked to know sooner, but I guess it's okay. I'm pretty sure the rest of the group would also like to know sooner than later, but it's not my decision when to let them know. I'll leave that up to you guys. Yugito, thank you, Lee said. Naruto and Kato went outside. Naruto had his arms folded and was leaning against the wall. Naruto broke the silence by saying, I don't want to hear that from you, Kato Sensei, ever again. It's never something that should be said. Unaware of what Naruto was discussing, Kato asked him, what do you mean? When Yugito was being controlled by the Nibi, I heard you said to Lee that you guys have to kill her. I don't ever want to hear something like that coming from you again, Naruto told him. The voice was sad rather than angry. I'm sorry, Naruto, but that was what Yugito said for me a long time ago when she was young. She told me that if she ever lost control of her Biju, that I should kill her, Kato stated to him. It doesn't matter. I won't let anyone hurt her even if she isn't herself, replied Naruto. Let me ask you a question. How would you feel if you lost control and killed all of your friends or your village? Would you rather have your friends kill you or survive and have them dead? How would you live after knowing that you've killed all of your friends? Naruto replied to Kato. He wanted to know what Naruto thought, but he wasn't angry either. Naruto has always considered this and was aware of the solution. I would want my friends to kill me. I would rather die than kill my friends, replied Naruto. Kato answered, you see, that's exactly how Yugito feels. Even so, I don't want to hear those words again. I will protect you guys if this happens again, but I will also protect her from you guys if this ever happens again, replied Naruto. Kato said he understood and nodded. Even if the Nibi took control of Yugito, he would keep her safe from harm. Was this the first time? Naruto asked, shifting the conversation. Yes, this was the first time that it happened. I thought the Nibi could only take memories. I didn't know that it could possess a person also. There was always a chance that it could, but Yugito never let it get control of her before, even when she was a child. I thought that it would have been easier when she was younger, but it never happened. That's one of the reasons why I thought that she couldn't get taken over, Kato replied. Naruto asked him, what did you think happened then? I don't know, but I'm pretty sure she must have had one bad nightmare. It happened when she was asleep, so I'm pretty sure I'm correct, replied Kato. Did you tell Lee then, about our problem? Was Naruto's question about whether Kato had spoken to Lee. Yes, I figured he should know after what he went through. I told him about you and Yugito, Kato responded. Naruto inquired as to, how did he take it? Just like a true friend would. He said that you were still the same person and that she was still Yugito. Yugito and I are done talking. You guys can come back in if you want, Lee said as he opened the door. Kato and Naruto returned inside. I guess we should fix the hole in the bathroom and in the hall. I'll go buy some wood, Kato told them. He walked out of the house. He returned with some wood after 15 minutes. While Yugito and Naruto worked on the hole in the bathroom, Lee and Kato worked on the hole in the hallway. Additionally, they cleaned up Lee's bloodstain. When they completed patching the two holes, it was quite late. After completing the hole, Lee and Kato retired to their separate rooms. He and Yugito shared a room with Naruto. He waited for Yugito to awaken while lying alone in his sleeping bag. The bed, blanket, and bloody clothes were thrown out. Will she go to bed? It's a little late. He waited half an hour more. He decided to look for her after waiting for half an hour because he was worried about her. I nearly killed him, Yugito thought as she sat on the chair in the kitchen. I cannot allow that to occur once more. To avoid hurting him, I have to keep my distance from him. She heard footsteps from the second floor at that very moment. Yugito was seated on the chair when Naruto came downstairs. She was dressed in an oversized shirt that was most likely Kato's and long shorts. Thanks for saving me, Yugito, he said as he moved to sit beside her. What are you talking about? I almost killed you, she responded. No, I know that you saved me from the last attack. If you weren't there, the Nibi would have attacked in a different spot. It was a long time before she spoke. She couldn't believe it, even though Naruto was saying it. He's thanking her, saying, I can't put you in danger again. She didn't look at him. Instead, she looked straight ahead. It was her fault that he nearly died. What are you saying? Naruto asked. You know what I'm talking about, Yugito replied. It wasn't you, Yugito. Didn't I say that it was you who saved me? You have to make the distinction, she was told by Naruto. She didn't respond to him for a while, just staring straight ahead. Yugito, we can't sleep together, he said. Look, I promised that I would try to wake you up whenever I can, right? If we're not sleeping together, then I can't do that. You should know that I don't go back on promises, Naruto stated to her. It was different. I only wanted you to wake me when I was having a nightmare, not when I was taken over, replied Yugito. Naruto looked at her and remarked, no, it's the same. You can't get rid of me anyway." She was still unable to gaze at him. She begged him, "Please, Naruto, I can't go through what happened yesterday again. You don't know how it's like, almost killing someone who you care for. Sometimes I wish that I wasn't alive," Yugito told him. As soon as she finished speaking, Naruto grabbed her upper arms and spun her around to check if she was serious. He took a moment to look into her eyes and saw that she was. Naruto advised her to never think that way again, Yugito. She could see how furious he was. She had never witnessed him this irate before. When the snake Sennin killed Jiraiya, Naruto didn't even appear this enraged. "I know what you meant by that, not wanting to be alive," Naruto replied. "And to answer your question, I do know how it's like to be taken over. The Kyuubi took possession of me once during my training with Sensei and I almost killed him. After the incident I felt like taking my life. My logic was that if I wasn't alive then I couldn't harm the people I care about. Sensei immediately sensed this and told me what it means to do something like that. He said that taking your life wasn't the answer. Only a weak person would something like that and it wouldn't accomplish anything. He told me to think of how my friends would feel if I do something that cowardly. Sensei told me that it was selfish to do something like that to them. And if you do something like that then you'll be taking the most important thing away from me," Naruto replied. "Promise me that you won't ever think like that again," he said gravely after giving her a moment to reflect. Naruto had asked her to make a promise to him for the first time. Before, her thinking was hazy, but now it made sense. Naruto was correct. I would never be able to forgive him for taking his own life if the roles were reversed. "I'm sorry, Naruto. I promise I won't think like that ever again," replied Yugito. "So, what were you dreaming about?" she promised, and Naruto changed the topic. Yugito simply turned around and fell silent for a while. Once more, she was facing away from him. "You know it'll be better once you tell someone," Naruto informed her. With a sigh, she said, "I was dreaming about Akatsuki. They had killed you and somehow I was running towards you, but I couldn't save you. I couldn't get closer no matter how hard I tried. I couldn't scream or make a sound." Yugito's breathing picked up speed as she recalled her nightmare. Naruto responded by saying, "If I weren't so worried about Akatsuki that night, you probably wouldn't have that dream. I'm sorry about that." According to Yugito, "No, it wasn't your fault," he said quietly. Now that she had described what had happened in her nightmare, she was relaxing. Naruto remarked, "You ought to understand why Chan allowed me to attend." She indicated that she understood by nodding. Naruto raised an eyebrow at her and said, "So are you coming or do I have to drag you upstairs?" Trying to convince herself that it wasn't her fault, she felt a little better now and said, "Okay, we can go to sleep then." Naruto noticed that the villagers were not being as friendly to Yugito as they usually were. He didn't mind that they spent most of their time indoors. Naruto only wanted to spend time with Yugito because he had already seen the village. The 2 weeks passed far too quickly, and Naruto and Lee had to head back home. It appeared that Yugito did not forget what she had said about Kato going back with him, despite Naruto's hope that she would. Kato also sided with her, despite his attempts to reason with his former sensei. They were standing at the entrance to Cloud's hidden village. The words, "I'm going to miss you, Naruto," were spoken by Yugito. Naruto told her, "Don't worry, I'll write to you. I'll be missing you too." Yugito's worried expression caught Naruto's attention. Naruto said, "Yugito, what's wrong?" He didn't like Yugito's expression, but he already knew what was wrong. "You already know," said Yugito. "Come on, don't you remember what you told me that one night? You told me not to worry about Akatsuki so much. Now, this is definitely not suiting you. We'll come out okay, I promise," she heard him say. "Hey," he said. He never fails to deliver on his commitments, Yugito reflected. She almost smiled at this thought. She attempted, but failed, to smile broadly for Naruto. Her expression was unnatural. He was aware of her intense concern for him. She was concerned about more than just his return trip. She did this because she was aware that they could attack him at any time. Naruto approached her and embraced her. "Please be careful, Naruto," she said quietly. "I will, and you too," replied Naruto. He released her after saying that. Down the mountain the group started to depart. Naruto said, "Bye Yugito, I'll see you," as he set off. "You too," said Yugito. Lee, Kato, and Naruto arrived in Konoha without incident. The front gate was where they were. Kato told Naruto, "Well, Naruto, I guess I'll see you again sometime." "Yes, let's hope that we can put an end to this problem soon. Then we can all relax a little bit more," Naruto replied. Kato was just grinning. "All right, then just message me if you ever need anything again. I'm going back." With a, "Okay, see you Kato," Naruto said, as Kato said to them, "See you Naruto, see you Lee. Thanks for sparring with me Kato-san. Your advices were very useful," Lee replied. Kato waved his hand and walked away, laughing. "You act like you were the only one that gained something from our spars. Your advices were very useful also. Hey Lee, can you give Chan the report? There's something I have to do," Naruto said to Lee after Kato had left. While returning from the hidden village of Cloud, Naruto was thinking about this. To be able to fight well when the time came, he needed to get stronger. There was only one person he knew who could assist him. "Sure, Naruto, I can do that," Lee replied, and departed for the Hokage Tower. Through the front gate, Naruto entered. Where did she now reside? Although we weren't particularly close, I'm hoping to learn where she lived and ask if she would still train me. He saw Shino while he was still on foot. Naruto said, "Oh, hey Shino, do you know where Kurenai-sensei lives? Just go straight until you reach Hokage Tower, but instead of going through the gate make a left. Her house is the one with all the flowers," Shino advised him to do. "Thanks," said Naruto. He started running toward her home. Naruto brought the most flowers when he knocked on the door. To Kurenai's surprise, Naruto was standing in front of the door when she opened it. "Hello Kurenai-sensei, I know that you don't know me that well, but I was just wondering something," replied Naruto. "Sure Naruto, what is it?" she said, unsure of what Naruto could ask her. "Well, you're the best genjutsu user here in Konoha and I was wondering if you don't have anything to do. Could you perhaps help me on my genjutsu? It doesn't have to be every day, but I would be very glad if you helped me from time to time," Naruto stated to her. She was considering this. She was aware of Naruto's kindness. Kurenai was still a little upset that Naruto and Hinata had not gotten together. After observing Hinata's behavior, she learned about Naruto and Yugito. At last, Kurenai was able to persuade Hinata to acknowledge the issue. She was upset with Naruto for not dating Hinata, but she also acknowledged that Hinata was partly to blame. He won't be around for long with someone like Naruto, and Hinata lacked the guts to pursue him. Because of Akatsuki, Kurenai was certain that he wanted to learn from her. Since there weren't many missions at the moment, Kurenai reasoned that she might enjoy instructing him. "I don't have any genin team right now Naruto, and since missions are getting low I can teach you one-on-one," he replied to Kurenai. Naruto said to her, "Really? That's very nice of you, thank you Kurenai-sensei. Alright, go to training ground that's next to the academy. I'll come after I get my gear," said Kurenai. "Right now?" inquired Naruto. Kurenai remarked, "What? I thought you wanted to train." "Oh sorry, of course I would. It was just that I thought you might be busy or thought it over some more," said Naruto. "Well I did, and I figure we should train as soon as possible if you want to learn a lot," Kurenai replied to him. Naruto smiled at her, nodded his head, and walked away. Naruto was a minute ahead of Kurenai. She asked him, "Okay, what do you want to know about genjutsu Naruto?" "Well, mostly dispelling. I want to be able to cast some also, but I think knowing how to dispel them would help me more right now," said Naruto. That would be the solution, she knew. It's a little simpler to learn how to dispel genjutsu than to cast them. He might have wanted to learn them if he had had more time, but he was pressed for time. "Alright then, I'll cast a few genjutsus on you and let's see how you do. I'll start with the easier ones and we'll move up from there," said Kurenai. Kurenai was shocked to learn that Naruto was proficient at dispelling before he approached her, even after hours of practice. This was more than she had anticipated from him. Some of her A-rank genjutsu and some of her B-rank genjutsu were dispelled by him. On the battlefield, however, she was aware that things were different. She was aware that the atmosphere on the field was different, even though he could dispel it when it was just the two of them. Emotions and feelings significantly alter a person's capacity to dispel genjutsu, in contrast to ninjutsu. Kurenai was also aware that Naruto's fights were filled with a lot of feelings and emotions. This might work against you if you're up against a genjutsu practitioner. After casting too many jutsus, Kurenai's chakra was depleted, so she said to Naruto, "Okay, Naruto, that's it for today. My chakra is getting low, let's call it a day." "Kurenai Sensei, can you do me another favor?" Naruto said as he got to his feet. As Kurenai put it, "What is it Naruto?" "Well, I'm not really tired right now and I want to train some more, but I need your help," said Naruto. "Go on," she said, unsure of his intended direction. "I'm sure you've already felt the ANBUs that has been tailing me. They were sent by Chan. Can you cast a genjutsu on them so that I can leave to train by myself? We can make it so that they think I'm still here training. I don't want to be training with them watching," said Naruto. Naruto was correct. After 30 minutes of training, She sensed the presence of the Anbu. She assumed they were watching Naruto, but she had no idea why they were watching them. Kurenai considered what Naruto had just said. Tsunade had instructed Anbu to keep an eye on him. If she did that, she would be violating the Hokage's command. I don't think I can, Naruto. Tsunade. Sama sent them to watch you, and I would be disobeying an order if I participated in anything like that, Kurenai replied to him. Come on, please, Naruto interjected. Kurenai said to him, why don't you just train with them watching? He rubbed his stomach and said, I'm not going to do regular training. Oh, so he will practice using the Kyuubi more effectively. Kurenai reasoned that he must be left alone for that reason. I don't think that's a good idea, Naruto. What would happen if you can't control it? Kurenai replied to him. That's why I need you to cast a genjutsu on them so that I can go to a deserted place. If I lose control, I'll just rage around there until my body collapses. I've already found a place where there isn't anyone, but I can't go with them watching me, Naruto told her. She was at a loss for what to think. On the one hand, Naruto would greatly benefit from improved control over the Kyuubi. Conversely, it was not permitted by the Hokage. She considered Akatsuki. If they approached him during his training, what would happen? What would occur, though, if he didn't practice controlling the Kyuubi? Naruto's chances of winning would be slim. She decided on a plan. Okay, Naruto, I'll cast a genjutsu on them. This jutsu will replay a 15-second movement for 4 hours. I want you to be back here pretending that you were training by that time so that we don't get caught. I'll come back here also so that it'll seem like we were training together. If you don't get back and we get caught, then I'll never do this again. Naruto gave a nod. Okay, sit here and don't make any sudden movements. He would not betray Kurenai's confidence. Without moving abruptly, he sat on the grass and closed his eyes. She sat down and stared at him without moving much. She performed a few hand seals, saying, Rewando no jutsu, rewind jutsu. When Naruto got up, Kurenai and another Naruto were seated on the ground. They appeared to be practicing genjutsu dispelling while seated. Okay, Naruto, remember, Kurenai informed him. With a nod, he departed. She returned home as well. As she arrived home, she reflected, I hope I made the right decision. Naruto arrived at the location he had told Kurenai about. The cave was tiny and encircled by massive trees. Are you a fox there? No response. Damn it, respond to me. It's not as if you can run away. Which kid? It sounded as though Naruto was bothering him. We will be training. You weak vessel, stop talking. You weak piece of shit, you couldn't even defeat the Nibi. You had to be a hero and restrain our power, but I was ready to assist back then as well. You want to train with me now? We'll definitely perish from Akatsuki if you don't assist me. Naruto attempted to lure him in. For several minutes, there was a prolonged period of silence. Answer me, fox, please. Naruto was pushing it too quickly when he suddenly felt a massive evil chakra radiating inside of him. Naruto instantly developed 6 tails. It was my turn to slow it down. With one hand clutching his stomach and the other gripping the floor, he collapsed to the ground. 8 tails were already emerging. He told himself to push the chakra back, but it was becoming more and more difficult. Naruto was still clutching his stomach on the ground. I told you that you were weak, and Kyuubi was now laughing. When I take over your body, do you know what I'll do? I'm planning to return to the Nibi. Not at all, Naruto reflected. Yugito was going to die unless he stopped the chakra. He pushed the evil chakra back with all of his remaining chakra. The Kyuubi laughed loudly. What did you think of that? He lay panting on the ground. 3 hours later, he had the strength to stand up. He returned to the practice field. Kurenai was there already. Kurenai said to him, I see you're back. All right. Let's dispel this genjutsu so we can go to my house. She questioned him, is something wrong, Naruto? She could tell he was exhausted because he looked like a complete mess. Naruto said, no, I'm fine, in a feeble voice. She reasoned that Kyuubi must have bitten him. After dispelling the genjutsu, Kurenai said, okay, let's go if you're okay. They arrived at Kurenai's residence. Naruto entered the living room and noticed 2 couches to his right. 3 people could be accommodated on one couch, while the other was a recliner. Her wall was covered in numerous paintings. He was unaware of their nature. Really, it wasn't a picture of anything. To him, the canvas appeared to be splattered with paint. She also had some tables with flowers on them and a television in her living room. Every corner of the living room had a tall lamp. The kitchen was directly ahead. There were 4 chairs on either side of the table. While getting him some orange juice, she went into the kitchen and got her some wine. She said to Naruto, sit down, don't be shy, and go ahead. He sat down on the sofa. Naruto had already begun to regain his strength. He asked her, "What are these paintings?" "They're called abstract painting. Some of them aren't supposed to be anything while others are up to your imagination," she explained. Naruto thought Kurenai's first description fit the paintings better than her second. She changed the topic and said, "So, I want to know why you want to practice genjutsu? As you probably know, Akatsuki is coming after me and I figured that genjutsu is where I'm the weakest at," she was told by Naruto. Kurenai said, "So you want to learn it also?" "Yes, of course. I really want to, but I know it's a lot harder to cast it than to dispel it. I figure that if I learn to dispel it better, it'll still help me," Naruto replied. She went on to ask him, "What about after all this Akatsuki stuff is done? Would you still want to learn it?" Despite not understanding her perspective, Naruto responded, "Of course, that is, if you're still willing to teach me after." "To tell you the truth, Naruto, most shinobis don't think very highly of genjutsu," said Kurenai. Naruto uttered, "What? You must be kidding me." "No, it's true. Most shinobis either take the ninjutsu route or the taijutsu route, especially males. They think of genjutsu as just supplement because it usually doesn't kill. Most of the time, after they learn dispelling genjutsu and they stop there. That's why I was wondering if you would still continue after I teach you how to dispel it better. I wanted to know if you were interested in it or just wanting to learn how to dispel it," she replied. Naruto believed that if shinobis were not interested in learning genjutsu, this was incredibly foolish. Shouldn't every ninja strive to become an expert at everything? Shouldn't shinobos try to learn everything if they could? He can see it in if they couldn't use it, like in Lee's case. Well, that's their loss. I know that you're a genjutsu user and you're strong, so it can't be weak. I wouldn't mind being as strong as you in genjutsu. Also Kakashi. Sensei uses genjutsu all the time, she responded. Kurenai said in a somewhat disillusioned tone, "There are exceptions, but I'm just telling you how most people think. Even Kiba and Shino didn't really want to learn it. Hinata did, but her father didn't let her." "Wow, you must be kidding me. I would be trying to learn all that I could if you were my sensei," she replied to Naruto. Naruto reflected that Kurenai, in contrast to Kakashi, was prepared to teach all of her students, but they refused to learn. "Nope, I'm not kidding. They mostly practiced their family jutsus while I just taught them the basic things," she replied. Naruto was already winning Kurenai over. Another reason why people don't try to learn genjutsu is because it's very hard to cast the higher level genjutsus. Unlike ninjutsu or taijutsu, emotions and feelings affect genjutsu. While most shinobis cover their emotions pretty well, they still have feelings inside of them on the battlefield, especially if they're working with someone they care about. That's why a lot of genjutsu users work alone. The emotions and feelings can affect a genjutsu. It doesn't matter if you're happy or mad, it can disrupt it or it might be casted wrong. That's why there aren't many genjutsu users, because even if they hide their emotions, it doesn't mean that they don't have any, Kurenai added. Naruto reflected on himself. Almost always, he expressed his feelings to the battlefield. He didn't know if he could change the way he fought. Is he capable of using genjutsu effectively? His thoughts were interrupted when Kurenai asked, "Do you know any genjutsu?" "I only know one, absolute darkness," responded Naruto. Wow, Kurenai thought, an A-rank genjutsu, he might have a chance. "I know you bring your emotions when you fight, but it might work after all. Because you express it so much, a lot of your emotions come out instead of getting bottled inside. We'll just have to wait and see," Kurenai stated to him. Naruto put down his cup of orange juice after finishing it. "Thank you, Kurenai. Sensei, same time again tomorrow then?" It was, "Sure, Naruto," she said. Naruto spent the following 2 weeks honing his genjutsu dispelling technique. Additionally, he wrote letters to Yugito, but they were unimportant. Naruto didn't write much in the letters because he was worried that they might be intercepted in some way. Additionally, Naruto started studying genjutsu casting. He was learning how to do it. Occasionally, she would also use her rewind jutsu to allow Naruto to train alone. For obvious reasons, she hasn't believed him to have that genjutsu. Despite Naruto's entreaties, Kurenai would only do this roughly twice a week out of concern that they might be discovered. Kurenai was strolling down the street in the morning when an Anbu approached her. The Anbu said, "Kurenai, Tsunade. Sama wishes to see you," then he went off. Kurenai visited Tsunade's workplace. "Kurenai," Tsunade said, "we have an A-rank for you. We want you to capture an A-rank missing nin alive. Our information states that he might know where Akatsuki's base is located. He's not a member, but Akatsuki uses people to do some of their minor chores for them," Tsunade informed her. "His name is Takuya. He's by a nearby village. Don't attack him while he's in the town, but as soon as he leaves you may." Here's how he looks like, she stated. Tsunade produced a photograph and gave it to Kurenai. He was a little heavier than Guy. The man had long, brown hair that was split in the middle. There was a 3-inch scar on his left cheek. There was no forehead protector on the man. Kurenai made the request to Tsunade, "Can I take Naruto with me?" Tsunade asked her, "Why do you want to take him?" "I've been looking after his training and I think the experience would benefit him," said Kurenai. Tsunade pondered for a while. Since they would have sent one of their men in its place, Akatsuki's chances of being close to Takuya are slim. "I suppose it's alright." Tsunade told her, "All right, he can accompany you." Kurenai took off from the office. She went to knock on the door of Naruto's house. "Hey Kurenai. Sensei. What are we doing today?" Naruto said as he opened the door. Kurenai informed him, "We're heading on a mission. Hurry, gather your belongings, and let's go." Naruto hastily put on his clothes and gathered his gear. They departed from Leaf's hidden village. She briefly explained their mission to him. As they made their way through the forest, Naruto asked her, "So where is he located and what does he look like?" She showed him the picture. "He's not far either. He's at a nearby town, about a day or so run. We are to capture him alive and outside of the town." They headed southwest until they came to a small town's outskirts. There, they paused to wait. They arrived at the town after a day. Really, there was nothing there. There were only a few brick homes, a few shops, a casino, and a hotel. Kurenai was at a nearby tree with Naruto. He said, "Is this the place?" to Kurenai. "Yes, we'll wait for him until he decides to leave the village," Kurenai replied. After 3 hours of waiting, a man who appeared to be their target emerged from the gambling establishment. They noticed him emerging at 3 in the afternoon. Kurenai said, "Let's wait for him for about a mile." After Naruto gave a nod, they departed. They didn't see him until roughly 15 minutes later. He was dressed in the standard blue pants and a gray cut-off shirt. Kurenai was correct. He had a lot of muscle. Although his body was not depicted in the photo, he was much larger than she had anticipated when she first saw him. After a few brief hand seals of Ryuki-ki, rising trees appeared all around. Taking his kunai in an instant, the man muttered, "I guess I do get to have some fun on this mission." Together with Kurenai, Naruto vanished into the background after performing a few hand seals and uttering the words Kamifura, Ji-jutsu, Camouflage Jutsu. With a few more hand seals, he muttered, Genkaku Sheizu, illusion image. The man remarked, "Ha, these cheap illusions won't work on me." A black-haired woman and a yellow-haired boy were sitting behind a tree when he ran around it. "Gotcha!" Takuya exclaimed. With his kunai, he leapt at the boy and woman, stabbing the boy in the side of the stomach. The boy with the yellow hair was stabbed and fell. Watching the missing nin attack his illusion image from behind a tree was Naruto. Before Takuya touched the ground, he performed a few more hand seals, saying, "Mizu Dekisui, water drowning." Takuya instantly felt himself fall into some water rather than landing on the ground as he had anticipated. He began holding his breath at once. What, did they use genjutsu to conceal the lake? Takuya was sinking farther and farther into the abyss. He attempted to swim up but was unsuccessful. When Takuya looked up, he saw the boy with the yellow hair doing some hand seals while looking down. "Why am I unable to swim? Has this water been tampered with by that boy?" Takuya was in a panic. 3 minutes later, the lack of oxygen caused him to faint. The water wasn't concealed by the genjutsu in real life. The water was the genjutsu. The entire time, Takuya was just standing on the ground, kicking his legs in an attempt to swim upward. Naruto was simply standing on a tree performing some hand seals when he fainted from holding his breath for too long. Kurenai questioned him, "I've never seen those hand seals before. What do they do?" "Oh, just a move I made up. It was just for show. I figured it would look like I was doing something when in reality I wasn't," replied Naruto. Kurenai simply chuckled and said, "Naruto, you really surprise me sometimes." "What?" Naruto replied, grinning and rubbing the back of his head. "I just wanted to make it look real," I said. After picking up the man, they returned to Konoha. He was drugged by Naruto and Kurenai to prevent him from waking up on the journey back. The following afternoon, they arrived in Konoha and brought the hostage to Tsunade. Naruto told Tsunade, "Well, here he is," and placed the unconscious man on her desk. Tsunade asked them, "Good job, did you guys have any trouble with him?" "Actually we didn't. Even though he was an A-rank missing nin, we didn't receive any problems from him. I think it was because we surprised him," Tsunade replied to Kurenai. "That's good to hear. Okay, I'll get Ibiki to see if he can get anything out of him. You're free to go," Tsunade informed them. Both of them walked out of the office. Naruto said to Kurenai, "Hey, let's go celebrate our first mission together." Kurenai responded to him, "Sure, why not? I'm getting hungry." They visited the typical eatery that everyone frequented. Kiba, Sakura, Hinata, and Shino were already present when Naruto and Kurenai entered the restaurant. After waving at them, Naruto sat down a few tables away. He wanted to discuss their mission with Kurenai alone. Kurenai sat down beside Naruto. As they passed the group, Naruto and Kurenai were talking. It seemed that every time they saw Naruto, they also saw Kurenai, so Sakura asked the group, "We've been seeing Naruto a lot with Kurenai Sensei lately. What do you think is going on?" "I don't know," Kiba uttered loudly. Shino informed the group, "It's clear that Naruto is training under her." Kiba asked, "What do you mean, Shino?" "Exactly what I said," revealed Shino. "But, she's our sensei. She can't be teaching someone else," Kiba replied to him. "Correction, she was our sensei. The day we became Chunin was the day she wasn't our sensei anymore. Anyways, she can teach other people if she felt like it," Shino replied to Kiba. In actuality, Kurenai hasn't been instructing Team 8 since they turned into Chunin. Kurenai sat down across from Naruto, who had already taken a seat. Naruto was thrilled. So, what did you think? I know you let me do most of the work so that you can assess how well I did." Despite being impressed that he had assembled all of those jutsus himself, Kurenai dismissed it, saying, "It was okay." "What? Come on, it was only, okay. Give me more credit than that, Kurenai." "Sensei," she replied to Naruto. Kurenai gave him a smile. He was constantly seeking recognition. "Alright, he performed better than I had anticipated." Kurenai stated, "Fine, you did good and I was surprised you did that well, but you still have much to learn," while maintaining her smile. Naruto smiled. They placed their order as soon as their menu arrived. Naruto placed a ramen order. Although he was aware that it wasn't as good as Ichiraku, he came here because Kurenai doesn't eat ramen. They resumed their conversation after that. "Let's talk about Genjutsu then. How does it work and all that?" replied Naruto. He had seen it before, so he knew what it did, but he had no idea how it operated. Genjutsu that are casted on objects or non-living things usually can be dispelled. It's up to the shinobi to figure out what is real and what is fake, or to figure out a way out of the genjutsu. Most genjutsu that is casted on the user messed with their chakra manipulation. If a person can't control their chakra very well, then it makes it even harder. Usually the higher level the genjutsu, the harder they're to dispel. Most genjutsu can be cancelled by pain. Again, this depends on the level. The higher the level, the more pain is needed to cancel it. Genjutsu can be used on any of the 5 senses. Touch, smell, hearing, vision, and taste, or any combinations of them, according to Kurenai. Kiba got up from his seat and approached Kurenai and Naruto. Though it was too late and he didn't want to cause a big commotion, Shino was going to stop him. Hinata said, "Kiba-kun," in a low voice that was inaudible to everyone. Kiba said, "Hi Kurenai." "Sensei, hi Naruto," loudly. His voice carried a tone of jealousy. "Hello Kiba," Kurenai said. Naruto said, hi Kiba," recognizing Kiba's rage. Kiba said, "So, what are you guys doing?" "We were just celebrating our first mission together," Naruto informed him. Kiba said, "First mission," slowly nodding his head while glaring at Naruto. "What is it, Kiba? I could sense your chakra and it's smelling worse than usual. Hurry up and say what's on your mind so I won't have to smell it anymore." "I don't like it," said Naruto to him. Kiba yelled, "You know what I don't like. I don't like you stealing our sensei." With a swift response, Naruto stood up to confront Kiba and said, "I didn't steal your sensei." The words, "Both of you quiet down," were spoken by Kurenai. "Look Kiba, I'm no longer your sensei, okay? Naruto asked me to teach him and I accepted. That's all there is to it," Kurenai told him. "Why didn't you ask your former teacher instead then?" Kiba asked, glancing at Naruto. "First off, Kakashi. Sensei isn't here most of the time. Second, even if he was, I would have asked Kurenai. Sensei first anyways," Naruto stated to Kiba. Naruto would have preferred to learn Genjutsu from Kurenai, despite the fact that Kakashi also employed a lot of it. Primarily because Kakashi used his Sharingan in a lot of his Genjutsu. His Genjutsu were also primarily for a single person. Naruto aspired to be a more complete Genjutsu practitioner. To Kurenai, Kiba questioned, "How come you never thought us after we became Chunins? You guys never asked. I figured you guys didn't want to learn anything from me anymore," replied Kurenai. This was accurate. Kiba only wanted to ask her that because he was envious of Naruto's relationship with Kurenai. Kurenai answered, "I can still teach you guys if you want me to." To which Kiba replied, "No, it's okay, Kurenai Sensei." After saying that, he returned to his seat. Yay! Wanting you to teach him after he really didn't even want to learn in the first place. He was just jealous that I'm getting along with you, that's all, Naruto said with a slightly irritated tone. Kurenai stated, "Don't say stuff like that, Naruto. It's not true," despite being aware that this was true. "You know it's true, Kurenai Sensei. I know he was your old student, but I can't just let that slide," Naruto stated to her. Enough about him anyways, let's get back to talking about Genjutsu. Even after they finished their meal, they kept discussing Genjutsu. To Kurenai's surprise, Naruto wanted to learn a lot about Genjutsu. She always assumed that the subject of Genjutsu would bore him. They retired to their own home as it grew late. The following day, wondering if Tsunade had any information about the man they had captured, Naruto went up to Hokage Tower. Naruto inquired, "Did you guys get any information of him?" "I'm sorry, Naruto, but it seems like he was under a Genjutsu. He doesn't remember who he is or where he was." "The Genjutsu was very powerful," Tsunade responded. He went to Kurenai's home after leaving Hokage Tower. For the following month, they continued their training. They became closer than either of them could have ever dreamed. Naruto was thankful that Kurenai taught him more than Kakashi ever did. He was open to learning, and she sincerely wanted to teach him. Additionally, she assisted him in his Kyuubi training by using Genjutsu on the Anbu that followed him everywhere. Naruto was seen by Kurenai as someone who truly enjoyed the lessons she taught him. In order to get stronger, he wanted to learn everything. She also learned a lot of Naruto's ninjutsu and taijutsu techniques over the past month. Cloud's hidden village. About 2 months have passed since Naruto departed, and Yugito was writing to him while lying in bed. The fact that she was afraid of being overheard made it difficult for her to tell him anything at all. She simply wrote a paragraph or so and put it down. "When will I see you again?" she thought as she turned over on her back. She was in the house by herself. Since yesterday, Kato had been on a solo mission. The Raikage typically paired them up, so this was strange. One of the few occasions when Kato was dispatched on a mission without her was this one. A knock on the door caught her attention. Yugito opened it by going downstairs. When she opened the door, an Anbu was there and said, "The Raikage wishes to speak with you." He then departed. When she arrived at the Raikage Tower, she went through the door. When Yugito said, "Yugito, here at your request. Here is your mission, Yugito. It's a B-class mission. You're to assassinate this man. He is located somewhere in the country of fire," the Raikage stated. He handed her a photo. Yugito questioned, "Is that all the information there is? Why was the information so ambiguous?" she wondered. With firmness, the Raikage said, "Yes, do you need more? You should find him somewhere in the country of fire." She inquired as to whether the Raikage wanted her to go alone, asking, "Should I wait for my brother?" With a hint of rage, the Raikage asked, "Did I ask for your brother?" Yugito sensed that his temper was rising. Although Yugito found her going alone strange, he said, "As you wish, Raikage Sama." She would need 6 days to reach the country of fire's border. She left the country of lightning after the 5th day. She went a little farther south during the 6 days. She was lying on a tree at night, contemplating returning to the country of fire. "While I'm in the country of fire, should I go see Naruto?" She sensed something approaching and started to consider her mission. Yugito bounded out of her position and dodged the thrown scythe. When she hit the ground, 2 Akatsuki members were there. Hidan and a girl with blue hair were there. Her age was mid-20s. One of her small, slanting eyes was obscured by her falling hair. Additionally, she had a white flower in her hair. "My name is Laiko," the girl introduced herself. Yugito narrowed her eyes and remarked, "It doesn't matter what your name is." Hidan chuckled and said, "It appears that foolish Raikage made it through after all." "Surprised, aren't you, Yugito?" Hidan asked after noticing Yugito's eyes widen for a moment. "Didn't you find it weird that you were sent on a mission by yourself, or were you too stupid and ninja? Like to think for yourself?" Hidan inquired to her. "You know what people say? They say cut off the head and the body will die. You know what I say? I say control the head and you control the body," Hidan chuckled. "You can thank your boyfriend for your cage's betrayal. After he saw how you change, he didn't really care about you anymore. You were seen as weak. And all it took was a little persuasion to get you by yourself," Hidan stated. With a bitter tone, Yugito questioned, "A little persuasion, what did you do?" "Easy, we took his daughter as hostage. We promised him that we would let her free after we got you. We sent him a tape of his daughter," Hidan explained. He burst out laughing. What's even funnier is that he believed us that we would let her free. What he doesn't know is that she's already dead." Hidan continued to laugh. "Oh daddy, please save me," Hidan said in a high baby girl voice. "Zetsu really deserves an Academy Award for that," Hidan stated. "He wouldn't have believed you that easily," stated Yugito. "But, that's where you're wrong, Yugito. You see, whenever Zetsu eats a person, he receives all the information that the person had. He can also easily morph himself into that person perfectly. You can't tell the difference between the person and Hidan. Perfect movement, perfect voice, the memories, everything's the same. With knowledge of the person's past and Zetsu's ability, it was very easy to fool the Raikage," Hidan continued. She was told by Hidan, "It's funny because he even gave us your brother." Yugito's eyes slightly opened. Hidan's hand went to something behind him. He unzipped a small bag he had taken out. After taking the contents out of the bag, Hidan hurled it at Yugito's feet. That was Kato's head. "Not you, Kato." Yugito's fist clenched. She stooped to examine the face. She was upset with the Raikage for throwing her and her brother away like trash. She was upset that these jerks would kill a small child in order to get to her. She was upset with herself for simply following directions without considering the consequences. Yugito's entire body started to radiate energy. "I can't hold back, this is it. He nearly killed me the last time. Now I must stop them." A sizable pool of water appeared in front of her as she got to her feet and performed the hand seals, Gogyu Kaiso, water reflection. Yugito slammed the floor with her hands and purple flames began to surround her as she performed another set of hand seals, Sakinike. Pabariti, beyond capability. Her eyes went from being normal to being slitted. She also developed longer canines. Around her, the dark purple flame began to resemble a cat. She developed 2 long purple ears and her fingernails grew longer. Behind her, one tail began to emerge, followed by another. Calmly, Yugito waved her hair in the air. Her gaze was fixed on Hidan. There were 2 voices. Yugito's in a low growling voice. "You will pay," they said. She ran in Hidan's direction. Too quickly, Hidan reflected. Yugito gave the 2 Akatsuki members a swipe. Laiko leapt into the air, while Hidan was struck in the chest and flew 5 feet back. Yugito jumped as well after glancing at Laiko. She started moving quickly in Laiko's direction. Laiko was unable to dodge it in time, and Yugito's punch removed half of Laiko's stomach. She passed away right away. Laiko thumped loudly to the ground. Laiko's stomach was gushing blood. Alongside Laiko, Yugito also hit the ground. Laiko got back up after she performed a few hand seals, Zetsume Yomigari, Death Resurrection. Now, she stood like a puppet. Hidan stated, "We have a problem here," without displaying any signs of fear. Laiko arrived, stood directly in front of his scythe, and took the blow when he threw it at Yugito. Knowing that Hidan couldn't see her because the corpse was in his line of sight, Yugito moved right away to his right side and used her right hand to swipe down, catching his ribs in the process. He was able to block the second swipe she made with her left hand. However, he was unable to stop her subsequent attacks. Hidan was kicked and sent a few feet back. He stood up and performed a few hand seals, burning white fireball. Yugito was directly hit by a white fireball. She inhaled deeply and exhaled a puff of purple fire as it approached her. The purple flame consumed Hidan's white fireball. Hidan suffered a 3rd-degree burn after the flame struck his stomach and chest, scorching his sleeves. His blood was sizzling in his stomach and chest. Hidan was being attacked from behind by Laiko as well. She moves too quickly for me to keep up. As he tried to dodge the approaching attacks, Hidan thought, plus she has that damn Laiko working with her. He was being hit nearly constantly for the next 10 minutes due to his injuries and Yugito's superior speed. Hidan was always too slow to block the second or third hit, but occasionally he was able to block the first. For him, things were not looking good. He fell to the ground once more and rose. Yugito briefly halted her assault. He was grinning. He had numerous deep scratches from Yugito and his body was burned. Despite the fact that nearly half of Hidan's left upper thigh was gone, he appeared completely unfrightened. "You know that you've lost, right? Remember what I told you the first time we met. I said that you won't be so lucky next time." "Looks like it's true," Hidan told her. His body began to change as he closed his eyes. Now his entire body was black. A skull replaced Hidan's face. Additionally, where there should have been bone, there were white marks. His skin appears to have had the outlines of his bones on it. Laiko and Yugito assaulted him once more. Hidan had stopped trying to attack. All he was doing was trying to avoid and block their attacks. As before, he would only be able to block a small number of attacks before being struck by the subsequent ones. For 5 minutes, this went on. Why is he not going to die? As Kato claimed, is he truly immortal? Yugito pondered. You see, Yugito, I've taken all your strongest attack plus Lyco's attack. Just give up easily and I promise I won't hurt you that much, Hidan told her. Yugito answered in a single voice, what are you talking about? You haven't even been able to get an attack on me yet. I don't need to. I can see that you can't hold your transformation much longer. A few more minutes and your body will collapse, Hidan replied. A tiny bit of blood trickled down Yugito's arm from her shoulder as he was saying that. You lost, just admit defeat and come with me peacefully. Hidan grinned as he said, glancing at the blood. See, and you can't beat me if you don't have your Biju helping you. I promise I won't hurt you, he said with a smile. It was accurate. Yugito was aware that her transformation could not be sustained for very long. She was now starting to experience internal pain. She could feel the tears welling up inside her. Lyco fell to the ground at that moment. Yugito was surrounded by a purple flame that was shrinking every second. Hidan remarked, I can see you're at your limit, as he examined the Lyco's body. I can't lose right now, no, Yugito thought. I must defeat him. Yugito's breathing was labored. The purple flame surrounding Yugito grew larger as she performed a few hand seals. 9 Atami, no pain. Hidan told her, TCHH, you really don't know when to quit, do you? There were now tiny streams of blood all over Yugito. Her face, arms, and legs all had tiny streams of blood leaking from them. Her jutsu prevented her body from feeling the pain, but it was too much for her body to bear. She struck Hidan once more, knocking him to the ground 10 feet away. He stood up and went back to his defensive position. For 5 more minutes, the same thing occurred. Yugito began to fall to the ground as the purple flame surrounding her abruptly vanished. She last saw a worried teenage boy with blonde hair running toward her and trying to shout something, but she was unable to hear him. He reached for her with his outstretched right hand. Yugito extended her left hand as well, but she was unable to take the boy's hand. She thought of Naruto. Yugito fell with a thump to the ground. Finally, stupid girl. She should have known she lost already. She almost killed herself using that technique, said Hidan. He kicked her hard in the face, like a football, saying, that's for damaging me. Komakai Shoheki, small barrier, and Fuda Kaori, covering scent, were 2 of Hidan's brief hand seals. Yugito was surrounded by a small barrier, and he was surrounded by another small barrier. After picking up the bloody Yugito, he departed. But at least she killed Lyco. For me, that means having more clout. Kakashi was moving swiftly in the direction of the 2 chakras he sensed. Suddenly, he sensed that one of the chakras had vanished. It was the larger chakra, which surprised him. Chakra typically doesn't vanish in that manner. Usually, it gradually diminishes rather than abruptly vanishes. If that occurred, it usually indicates a death. This is not good. It took him half an hour to reach the location. The battle was already over, he realized. In search of any indication of a scent he could follow, Kakashi sniffed the air. Nothing smelled to him. He claimed to have come from the hidden village of Cloud after he discovered a girl's body on the ground with half of its stomach removed and a severed head wearing a forehead protector. Was this the sensei of Naruto? If it was, I was able to retrieve his body while simultaneously attempting to ascertain the other person's whereabouts. He was aware of what to do. With a few hand seals, Kakashi declared, summoning no jutsu. Pakun and a large black bulldog then materialize. Pakun and the bulldog nodded and said, okay guys, find this guy's scent and when you find his body also, bring it here. They could only have gone in one direction. I need to find some hints, he said. Cage Bunshin, and a dozen shadowy clones materialized. He instructed the clones to spread out and let's look for any obvious clues. He wanted them to look for hints only in the immediate vicinity, even though he knew they couldn't go very far from him. In search of a clue, Kakashi leapt from tree to tree. Kakashi, we brought the body back like you said. After 15 minutes, Pakun returned, and Kakashi returned to the location of the severed head. It was right next to the body. He removed a seal and drew some patterns on it. After a few hand seals, Kakashi said, sealing no jutsu. The head and body made a pop sound, and then there was just a puff of smoke. Thank you, guys, Kakashi said. Unsummon, he said with a few more hand seals, and Pakun and the large black bulldog vanished into the smoke. He resumed his search. About 30 minutes passed before one of the clones approached him. It declared, I found a clue. He led Kakashi to a nearby tree. There was a tiny branch that was pointing in a different direction. He let the clones go and headed that way. Kakashi visited Tsunade's workplace. Instead of knocking, he opened the door and exclaimed, Tsunade. Sama, they got Yugito. Tsunade squinted her eyes. I followed them to their hideout and I've located it. To my surprise, it isn't as far as we thought. It's actually in the country of fire, she was told. He spoke a bit more quickly than normal. Tsunade could sense his concern. Thus, Tsunade thought, they positioned themselves close to us rather than far from the enemy as a typical group would. He was asked by Tsunade, how long has it been? I tracked them yesterday night and I'm pretty sure they're still extracting her. Since they lost a member fighting Yugito, it will take more time also. I would say about 3 more days or so. The least is a day and a half, Kakashi told her. Tsunade asked him, did they get another member to replace the one I killed? Kakashi answered, I don't know. I couldn't get close enough to see. She asked him, how long will it take to get to the hideout? About 2 to 3 days depending on the group size, he replied. Tsunade thought, damn, the missions had to start coming in right when we find out where Akatsuki is. This was accurate. Many shinobis were on the numerous missions that have been coming in recently. But since Akatsuki might move after the extraction, they had to launch an attack right away. Okay Kakashi, find 4 teams of Anbu and take them with you. Go to the hideout and take them out, Tsunade instructed him to do. Yes, said Kakashi. He heard Tsunade's voice just as he was ready to open the door. Tsunade said in a firm voice, I hope you heard me correctly, Kakashi. I said 4 teams of Anbu, not Naruto and his friends. Without responding, Kakashi simply opened the door and walked out. Sakura was present when he shut the door. Kakashi didn't even consider Sakura's embarrassment at being caught eavesdropping. You heard what happened, go get Naruto and meet me near the front gate. Find the people that he trusts and tell them also. I'm sure you know who I'm talking about. I'll go check if Guy, Kurenai, and Asuma are still in town. And hurry, I'm pretty sure Tsunade Sama is going to send some Anbu teams after us when she finds out that Naruto's going, Kakashi stated to her. I'm sorry, Tsunade Sama, but Naruto needs to be aware of this. I would sooner die than keep what just happened from Naruto. Both of them passed Shizune as they began to flee Hokage Tower. Tsunade thought, damn that Kakashi, he's going to tell Naruto. She had previously allowed Naruto to escort Yugito back, but this time was different. They were going to attack Akatsuki this time, even though it was dangerous at the time. She wished to prevent Naruto's death or capture. What would happen if Naruto were taken prisoner? This would imply that all of the Bijus belonged to Akatsuki. Akatsuki was holding Naruto as he fell. As Tsunade shouted, Shizune, Sakura, come here now. What is it, Tsunade Sama? Shizune asked as he opened Tsunade's door after a minute or so. She was asked by Tsunade, where is Sakura? Shizune remarked, I saw her running with Kakashi. Why? Oh no, I was also going to urge Sakura to assist Shizune, but I guess I can't expect that to happen. She used to be Naruto's teammate. Tsunade thought, she's with Kakashi on this one. Okay. Round up 4 teams of Anbu and send them out to the front gate. Tell them to stop Naruto and his gang from leaving. Tell the ANBUs not kill them, only to restrain them, Tsunade stated to Shizune. Yes, replied Shizune. She walked out of the office right away. Tsunade sat idly in her chair and remarked, what's the point of being Hokage if your soldiers won't even listen to you? She was using her fingers to massage her temples. Tsunade filled a glass with sake and took a sip. All this work is too much for me at this age. Kakashi was waiting for Guy and Kurenai outside the gate. Asuma had a purpose. Guy and Kurenai appeared before Kakashi, and he asked, so what's the mission, rival? This isn't an official mission for you guys, but Akatsuki got Yugito. I need you guys for something, Kakashi told them. Sure, so we're going to face Akatsuki then, Guy responded. He demonstrated his readiness for action by punching his right fist into his left hand. Kakashi remarked, no, I need you and Kurenai to do something else. What is it, Kakashi? If we're not going to fight Akatsuki with you, then what do you want us to do? Guy asked, his cheerful smile turning serious. Naruto and his friends should be here any minute. Also, I'm sure that Tsunade has sent some Anbu after us. I need you and Kurenai to hold them off for a while, Kakashi stated. Kurenai said to him, what, no way. I should go and fight Akatsuki also. She was afraid Naruto would not return. Kurenai felt obligated to keep an eye on her younger brother, just like an older sister would. She also felt that she should be keeping an eye on Naruto even though she knew he was stronger than her. I'm sorry, Kurenai, but I need someone who can cast a big genjutsu to distract the Anbu for a while. No one else but you can do it, Kakashi told her. I don't like the idea of Naruto fighting Akatsuki. He's my student also and I'm worried for him. I know he has improved, but I also know his limits, said Kurenai. Let me ask you a question, Kurenai. If Asuma was in this situation, what would happen if no one let you go? Kakashi inquired. She was aware of her course of action. Whoever told her to stay wouldn't matter, she would go to him regardless. Kurenai replied in a remorseful manner, all right then. Then why do you need me here? I should go and help you guys also, Guy replied to him. No, the Anbu team will sooner or later find out that it's a genjutsu. I need you to take them out when that happens, Kakashi replied. Take out Anbu. Attacking your own men, I'll be put in prison for that, Guy replied. I'm not asking you to kill them. I'm just asking you to knock them out for a while. I'll take full responsibility for your actions. Come on, Guy, we can't be arguing over this right now, Kakashi said to him. Why don't you get someone else to do it while I accompany you to fight Akatsuki, Guy replied. Additionally, he disliked the thought of his former pupils engaging in combat with Akatsuki members. There are only 4 people that have enough stamina to run back and forth taking out the Anbu. They're not going to come from one direction. I need a person that can run back and forth very fast without getting tired. The only people can do that are you, Lee, Naruto, and Tenten. We know why Naruto can't go. Tenten's in Anbu, so I think she shouldn't be doing this. They'll forgive you since you're older than most of them, Kakashi told Guy. What about Lee then? Guy inquired, anticipating the response. Nevertheless, he would prefer that Lee stay and carry on with his work rather than engage in combat with Akatsuki members. No, I need Lee for this mission, Guy. First, Anbu won't forgive Lee that easily. Second, Lee's faster than you and I need him for that reason. You already know who he's going to fight already. Your ninjutsu and genjutsu skill won't work on this particular opponent. I need someone real fast, Kakashi replied. This was accurate. Lee outpaced Guy in speed despite Guy's superior strength. Fine, Guy said, his voice unhappy. Kakashi glanced at Kurenai and Guy. He could tell that his plan had not pleased them. It was evident to Kakashi that they were concerned about their former pupils. Have faith in them. They're not young anymore. They can pull through this. If I didn't believe that, then I wouldn't have told them to come, Kakashi advised them. When Kakashi turned to face the village, he saw 13 figures approaching. Naruto showed up with the rest of the group. It's unbelievable. All of them are present. Kakashi thought. I was certain that some of them would have been on missions. All we have to do now is wait for someone else. Kakashi noticed Temari approaching from his left. Well, Kakashi thought, she's here. Okay, I'm sure Sakura or Naruto has told you guys what happened. This isn't an official mission, but we're helping Yugito. Hurry, let's go, Kakashi said as the group arrived, and they started to follow him. Wait, said Naruto. They all turned to look at him. Lee was prepared to tell them what he already knew. I want you guys to know who you are helping before you go. Akatsuki are after Bijus. Yugito and I have a demon in us. I have the Kyuubi in me and she has the Nibi. If you guys don't want to help us because of that, then I understand, Naruto said as he looked down. For roughly 5 seconds, the group remained silent. All they could do was gaze at Naruto. Kiba said something. Hey, don't try to act all cool, Naruto. Yugito's our friend too. Let's go. The group nodded as Akamaru barked. Kurenai said, Naruto, please be careful. I'll come after I distract Anbu long enough. With caution. Kurenai hugged him. Kakashi remarked, Guy, Kurenai, you guys know what to do. They gave a nod. Everybody began to follow Kakashi. Temari and Shikamaru were conversing with one another in the center of the group. Temari was wearing a one-piece white dress from the Chunin exam and fishnet stockings. Her thighs were still exposed by the short dress. She had her fan on her back as well. She was asked by Shikamaru, so why did you come? Kakashi told me. Actually it was his dog, but you get the point, Temari replied. Kakashi called Pakun to deliver the message to Temari after learning of Akatsuki's hiding place. I didn't ask how you found out, I asked why did you come? Shikamaru repeated to her. They killed my brother, you know. I want my fight with them also. Plus Naruto changed Gaara and I've got to help him for that, Temari replied. Shikamaru said, your case cage let you come? Dummy, I'm the case cage now. Kankaro is looking after the village while I'm gone, Temari replied. Shikamaru thought to himself, oh great, another woman that's leading a village. He fell 5 feet to his side after Temari struck him hard in the face. He was able to change his position in midair and came down on one of the branches. Was that what I said aloud? Sometimes I really had to stop talking. He went back to the group. This time, it was farther from Temari. Naruto approached Kakashi. Naruto inquired, so how long is it before we reach the location? If we hurry, Kakashi said, I say about 1.5 days. Kakashi questioned, "Do you want to lead this mission?" Although Kakashi believed he was more qualified to lead this mission, he could understand if Naruto preferred to take the lead. "No, even though I know most of the Akatsuki's strengths, but I haven't been keeping up with our group's capabilities. I think it would be better for the group's survival if you lead." "So how strong is our group?" "I haven't really fought any of them," Naruto replied. That, all of their fighting capability are well above Chunin level. The only thing that usually holds a lot of them back is their mentality or the way that they think. Kiba's a real good fighter, but whenever he had an opponent down and out he would wait to see if they used all their techniques yet. Naruto laughed. It was something he used to do. Kakashi went on, he always wanted to know that he beat them when they're at their best. This is real reckless and it could get him killed one day, but somehow he's still alive. The only reason Lee isn't a Junin is because he couldn't use any ninjutsu or genjutsu. Ino doubted herself too much, even more than Sakura. When she believes in herself though, she is a force to be reckoned with. Hinata's the same way, except worse. While Ino can do some missions by herself, Hinata never had the courage to do anything by herself. It always seemed like she needed a team. She's a competent fighter though. If Choji learned a little more instead of only his family jutsus, he would be Junin. You fought Sasuke already, so you know how strong he is. Naruto thought, great, they're all pretty strong. Ino moved to join Neji. So what do you think of Naruto having the Kyuubi in him? Ino inquired. He's the same person. From what I've read, the Kyuubi was sealed in a baby. It's not like he just received it right now. If a person still isn't his friend after finding that out, then I don't think they deserve to be his friend, Neji responded. You're right. He's still the same Naruto, Ino replied. She glanced at Naruto, who was leaping through the branches with Kakashi before her. Naruto, why didn't you tell us sooner? When Sakura noticed that Sasuke was upset, she approached him and asked, is something wrong, Sasuke? He tightened his grip, I have to kill him, not only for me, but for Naruto and Yugito. She saved my life and I have to repay her. Itachi's there with them and he will die by my hands. Sakura gave him more attention. There was a serious problem with Sasuke. She was unnerved by his desire for vengeance. Sasuke, I think you should loosen up a little because you won't be in top condition if you're thinking about that too much, Sakura said to him. He continued to avoid the trees without answering her. Until dusk, the group continued to jump from tree to tree. At night, they set up camp and slept. Everyone was up early the following morning. Kakashi said to the group, come here for a minute, guys, and I'll explain how we're going to do this. They formed a small circle and traveled to Kakashi. Since we're pressing for time, we need to split up and fight each Akatsuki member. There are 7 Akatsuki members with a possible 8, Kakashi stated. Choji remarked, I thought there was 9. Well, there was. Yugito killed one before they took her in Tsunade. Sama also killed one a couple of months back. It takes a long time before finding a replacement. Akatsuki doesn't just recruit anybody, the person has to be very strong. So that's why there are 7 with a possible 8, Kakashi explained to him. Kakashi briefed the group on the adversary and their opponents. If there is another member, Sakura, you and Naruto will have to fight him or her. Since you two are the most versatile here, I'm leaving him or her up to you. Sorry, I don't know if they have another member or not. I also do not have any information on the leader. Once you beat the enemy, if you still have strength left, please try and help the other groups, Kakashi told the group. Sakura thought Kakashi's explanations were flawed. Kakashi. Sensei, not to be rude, but what would happen if they all attacked us at once? I've heard that they're cage-level shinobis. If they all attack us at once, we'll have a very slim chance of winning. That's where you're wrong, Sakura. They won't attack at once. You've got to remember who you are talking about. These are S-class criminals. They would never work together. At one sign of weakness, they wouldn't hesitate to kill another. Each of them is in this for themselves. I wouldn't be surprised if they are all plotting something against one another right now because they're so close to their goal, Kakashi stated to her. Believe in one another and we will win this one, Kakashi said to the contingent. Zetsu addressed the leader. What do you want us to do? There's a group of shinobis outside of our hideout. A man asked, how many are there? 14, said Zetsu. They've sent 14 shinobis to fight us. This must be a mockery. Fine, we'll dispatch this group effortlessly just to show how strong we are. You 6, go and confront our friends, the man replied. Time to kill, yay, a voice acknowledged. The group departed right away. They were outside a little cave. Kiba looked up at the cave and said, so this is the place? It was roughly 20 feet high and 20 feet away from them. Yes, said Kakashi. They haven't noticed we're here then. We have the advantage, Kiba stated. I'm certain that they know we're here. Remember, one of them can see very long distances, Kakashi stated. Neji, can you use your Byakugan and see how many members there are? Kakashi asked. Well, there are 6 members coming out right now, but somehow I can't get past a barrier. It's blocking my view. This is the first time that it has happened, Neji replied. From the cave emerged Hidan, Zetsu, Kisame, Itachi, Kazuku, and Deidara. Deidara looked down at the group and said, well, what do we have here? We're trying to get rid of Bijus to save the world and there are people that want to stop us. I should just kill you all at once, yeah. Come, I'll kill you all myself, Deidara replied. Tamari declared, this girl here and I will fight you. Oh, you're mad cause I got your little brother, but come on, 2-on-1. You can't be serious. All of you should fight me so it'll be fun, yeah, Deidara laughed. We will be enough, Tamari declared. In response, Deidara said, talking as if you're going to win. She was informed by Tamari, that's exactly what I'm saying. Deidara said, okay, follow me then, yeah. To his left, he began to leap. Deidara was followed by Tamari and Tenten. With his sword resting on his shoulder, Kisame gazed at Kakashi and asked, so, is this how's it going to be? Copy.nin Kakashi? Yes, we will fight all of you 2-on-1, Kakashi said. Kisame told him, insane, you know you guys can't win like that. Kakashi remarked, that's where you're wrong, we can win. If you really think so. This is going to be easier than I thought. I'll agree with this little arrangement. He grinned. So who's behind door lucky number 2? Asked Kisame. Me and my teammate will lead the way and let's go, Shino stated. Kisame leapt out of the doorway and headed to the right. He was followed by Shino and Hinata. With joy, Kisame exclaimed, heh, I get a girl. A cute one at that. They're in a hurry. That's why they're fighting us like this. Be careful, they know our techniques while most of you don't know theirs, Itachi said with a calming tone. Hidan remarked, like I need to be careful around a bunch of kids. If you want an early death then go ahead and do what you want, Itachi responded. What did you say? When Itachi said, I don't need to repeat myself twice. Hidan asked, whatever, who's next on our team then? Kazuku took a step forward and said, I'll take these runts. You're going down. Me and my teammate will take care of you, Kiba replied. Aw man, I get the ugliest of the bunch. I was hoping that I get one of the girls, but I get a fat guy and a guy that resembles a dog, Kazuku replied. When Choji heard the word, fat, his eyes began to flare. Akamaru gave him a growl. Let's see if your bite is as big as your bark, Kazuku heard Akamaru say. Shut up, just hurry so we can kill you and get this over with, Kiba replied. Kazuku leapt straight from the precipice. They trailed Kazuku. Zetsu leapt from the precipice and approached the other members of the team slowly. Zetsu uttered the words, we get to kill, more to himself. The answer was, yes we get to kill, Zetsu told himself. Should we kill? Yes we shall. Who's fighting we? Maybe White Eyes. He has nice eyes, we shall eat him. Yes, eat him and get his eyes. Fighting a psychopath is my only option, then Ino thought, Kriat. Stepping forward, Neji said, lead the way. To the right, but a little away from Kisame, Zetsu took off. He was followed by Neji and Ino. Itachi's calm voice said, so it's you and me then, right little brother? You've been waiting for this moment your whole life, isn't that right? Just hurry up and lead the way. Sasuke glared back. However, Itachi was correct. Sasuke had been anticipating this moment for his entire life. Itachi leapt over the precipice and disappeared behind the cave. Itachi was followed by Lee and Sasuke. Oh, I get the big prize then. I get copy.nin Kakashi. At least I don't have to fight kids, Hidan replied. Calmly, Kakashi said, lead the way Hidan. Fine, I think our leader wanted to get the Kyuubi container by himself anyways, Hidan replied. Shikamaru and Kakashi followed him to the left. Nobody remained. Sakura and Naruto entered the cave. After about 10 minutes of jumping from tree to tree, Deidara came to a halt. 20 feet from him, Tenten and Tamari came to a halt. There were many trees all around. Kakashi informed us that he could alter the trajectory of his projectiles. He chose this spot in order to make it more difficult for other projectiles to strike him. But it doesn't matter, Tenten thought, I can still hit him. Why don't we introduce ourselves? Yeah. I'm glad I get to fight 2 girls. I have seen one of you before because I was the one who killed her brother, but the other I don't recall ever seeing. My name is Deidara, yeah, said Deidara. Name's Tamari, I will get you for what you did to Gaara, she replied. Tenten, you should know the name of the person who's going to kill you, said Tenten. My, "My aren't we an angry bunch? You know it's not good fighting with emotions." "Yeah," Daidara stated to them. He hastily extracted some clay from his pouch. Tenten wondered, are those his projectiles? With her sword drawn, she grasped it in her right hand. Tamari pulled out a fan. "Be careful," advised Tamari. "I know that already," Tenten replied. Daidara began forming what appeared to be a bird out of the clay. He dropped it right away, and it grew into a huge bird. On it, Daidara leapt. Tenten threw some kunai at him, but he blocked them after she saw that he was going to take it to the sky. The bird of Daidara began to fly just above the trees. He was fleeing from their presence. Tenten thought, "Damn, I thought he was going to attack." Tamari and Tenten pursued. At that moment, they noticed tiny clay birds soaring toward them. As soon as Tenten threw some kunai, the birds exploded. Detonating, she pondered. More clay birds were flying at them as she was thinking this. Tenten knew she was losing, but she tried her hardest to hit the targets before they could get to them. The number of birds was just too great. Additionally, Daidara was moving farther and farther away from them. Tenten pulled out a massive scroll and opened it hastily. She then started hurling tens and tens of shurikens all at once. Before it could reach the small birds, she was able to strike them all. Daidara was making his special bomb while perched atop his bird. Yes, number 18. When he was done making it, he dropped it. He dropped something that Tamari saw. From somewhere, she recalled that design. Tenten was shouted at by Tamari to miss the target. She pulled out her fan and swung it at the thing. The tiny object was blown away by a powerful gust of wind that came from her fan. It made a huge explosion about 50 feet away from them 5 seconds later. They had lost Daidara in the explosion. They ran through the forest to find him. 10 minutes or so had passed when Tamari suddenly jumped forward, seeing something in front of them. Even though it was fleeting, she was certain that something was there. She missed Tenten's arm when she attempted to seize her and hurl her back. She was also unable to retreat because she was attempting to grab Tenten. Facing first, they were ensnared in an extremely thin web. They had their backs to one another. Tenten was told by Tamari, "Nice going. You should have seen that." Tenten felt angry with herself. She was aware that she was to blame for falling into the trap. "Well, if you saw it, instead of trying to rescue me, you should have stayed behind so you could have gotten me free," Tenten replied. "I would have if I knew that it wasn't going to blow up the minute someone touched it," Tamari replied. From the tree, Daidara leapt down and said, Now, don't be arguing. Looks like I caught some bugs." Despite their efforts, they discovered it was ineffective. Daidara declared, "You won't be able to get free." He noticed 3 clay spiders approaching them from the left, some 30 feet away. So he made his clay bird and took off. "I guess it's time. I'll get back to the base while my pets blow you girls up." "Art is a bang, yeah," he said. Tenten noticed 3 spiders slowly approaching them from behind Tamari's head. She said, "We've got to get out." Tamari questioned her, "Easier said than done. What's behind me?" To which Tenten replied, 3 clay spiders." They kept thinking of a way out in a calm manner. They were both aware that panic would only result in their deaths. Tenten started scanning her surroundings quickly when she noticed something that might be useful. They would only have one chance, but if it succeeded, they would escape because Tamari's left leg was not entangled in the web. The spiders were approaching, she noticed. She said, "Tamari, can you use your left leg?" Moving her left leg, Tamari said, "Yeah, a little." Tenten asked, "You see my weapon pouch?" With a downward eye roll, Tamari said, "Yeah." "Here's what we're going to do. You're going to kick the weapons up and hopefully I can catch one," she continued. "With what?" she asked, noticing that Tenten's hands were also entangled in the web. "I'll catch it with my tongue. So kick it to my face," Tenten replied. Tamari gazed at Tenten as if she were insane. Tenten told her, "Hurry, we don't have much time," as he peered at the approaching spiders. "All right," said Tamari. She was aware that this was their only chance, so she needed to make the most of this kick. When Tamari said, "Ready on 3. 1, 2, 3, she kicked Tenten's weapon pouch. Numerous shurikens, exploding tags, and kunai emerged. She kept staring at Tenten ferociously as she tried to use her tongue to catch a kunai or shuriken. Tamari would have been giggling if the situation had been different. Tenten hardly used her tongue to get the final kunai. Tamari sighed. "Now what?" asked Tamari. Tenten said to her, "Stay still. I see a weak point near your face." The kunai prevented her from speaking clearly, but Tamari could understand her. Tenten hurling a kunai at her face with just her tongue bothered Tamari, who said, "Wait a minute." "No time," Tenten said, hurling the kunai at Tamari's face with her tongue. When it appeared online, Tamari was at liberty. The 3 spiders had hardly missed her when she turned to look behind her. When Temari noticed that Tenten was still not free, she seized one of the kunais that was lying on the ground and set Tenten free. "Phew, that was close," noted Temari. "Tenten, yes, it was," she said. "This time, look where you're going," Temari said to Tenten. "Let's give chase again, shall we?" Tenten became slightly irate, but she understood Temari's point of view. She was to blame for their capture. After turning around, they started to return to the hiding place. In order to avoid having to conduct a new search, Daidara had declared that he was returning. Tenten threw 3 kunai at the spider when they were within 20 feet of the web, and they exploded. Temari was already aware of her motivation. Daidara would become suspicious if his trap failed to go off, which is why. "Here's the plan. I'll be heading left. Go after him and make him come my way. We'll trap him and get him off of that bird. When you see things getting cut down, move out of the way immediately. He should be easier to handle once he's off the bird," she was told. Tenten gave a nod, and Temari started to move to the left. Tenten picked up her pace in an attempt to overtake Daidara. She didn't see him until roughly 5 minutes later. Daidara was grinning inwardly. The 2 foolish girls had just been killed by him. Yes, he thought, they were foolish to fight us 2-on-1. Then he suddenly sensed something coming directly at him. This shuriken was big. His left arm was severed when he attempted to avoid it, but it was too late. One of the girls was hurling weapons at Daidara when he looked down. Thus, they were set free. Instead, I should have killed them there. Shurikens and kunai continued to attack, but his giant bird's wings were obstructing their path. The left side is where most of the shurikens are coming from. She's attempting to correct me. Then I suppose I'll turn left. He then swiveled his bird to the left. Wonderful, Tenten mused to herself. She had just set up a trap for Daidara. She was aware that if she attempted to force him to turn left, he would turn right instead. However, he would go to the left if she attempted to force him to go to the right. Temari was moving at a high speed. She pulled out her fan and bit her thumb as she arrived at the spot where she thought he would arrive, saying, "Summoning no jutsu." A tiny cat on a sitch then materialized. When Temari said, "Ready Kamatari," the cat nodded its head. After a minute or so of waiting, Temari noticed a large bird approaching them. After saying, "Okay Kamatari, here we go," Temari gestured with her fan. The cat abruptly started sailing in the direction of the bird. Everything that got in its way was instantly destroyed. When Daidara looked down, she could see how quickly the trees were being felled. He attempted to move his bird out of his way after realizing he was in danger, but it was too late. The bird had been sliced to pieces by the wind. It only succeeded in severing his other arm, and he started to fall to the ground. Daidara reasoned that after passing through his bird, the jutsu most likely lost its cutting power. He stood up and raised his head. Daidara noticed Temari standing before him. Temari informed him, "It's over, Daidara, you have no arms." He turned to see Tenten standing behind him. Tenten reassured him, "Give up and I promise I'll make this quick." "I suppose this is the end of it." Daidara reflected, "We might as well go out with a bang." She swung her sword at him instantly, severing his head. She could see that Daidara was growing rapidly as she drew nearer to him. Temari yelled, "No," and swung her fan at Tenten. Tenten was blown in a different direction by this. Daidara had exploded just as she was being blown in a different direction. Temari went straight to Tenten's location. She arrived to find the Tenten completely covered in blood. Temari said, "Tenten, you are alive?" She knew Tenten wasn't feeling well, so she didn't want to inquire about her own well-being. Blood came out of Tenten's cough. "She's alive," Temari reflected. She needed to get Tenten to Sakura as soon as possible because she knew they were too far from a hospital. "I hope Sakura hasn't yet gotten into a fight." She started carrying Tenten by placing her on her shoulders. Kisame was followed by Shino and Hinata until they came to a large open field. "I guess this is where I'll be burying you too," Kisame said, drawing his sword. Hinata activated her Byakugan and assumed her fighting stance. Shino held his hands aloft before him. The field was covered in water as Kisame performed a series of hand seals known as Sweden Bakusu Shoha, exploding water shockwave. He asked the two, "So, are we ready then?"
That's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this great story. See you in the next one.